1J is the absolute smartest kid in the entire school. While other guys chase girls, he's only focused on sharpening his mind. Even so, quiet, hardworking bookworms can easily attract plenty of attention. Specifically, one sweet girl who can never look away from him. Then our peaceful genius walked into class covered in bad bruises. Shock washed over the classroom. No one could guess the reason. After all, Jay is ranked first nationwide, a perfect student. He always follows every single rule, but everything suddenly changed. The teacher proudly introduced a gorgeous new transfer student from America. Since she is the principal's granddaughter, everyone treats her like royalty. The second she spotted Jay, she marched right over and kissed him. She did it right before their eyes, leaving everyone completely speechless. Especially his secret admirer. Even the principal watched from the window. He peeked in, keeping a close eye on her first day. Our hero stood there in total confusion, having absolutely never met her before. But the new girl, Shell, merely pointed at a classmate and demanded his seat. Naturally, the terrified kid packed up and handed it over immediately. Soon, random classmates swarmed Jay, begging for details on his new girl. Meanwhile, his secret admirer sat nearby in pure heartbreak. But how did this happen? To understand this madness, we have to take a look back at Jay's routine. Despite living close by, he prefers commuting on an old bicycle. Classes are boring. He needs some serious morning adrenaline to survive. So he treats the daily commute like a wild obstacle course. Riding like an absolute daredevil, he leaves terrified construction workers in his dust. Even kissing couples get startled as he flies past them. Faced with a steep, deadly hill, he feels zero fear. He bombs down at maximum speed, pulling off insane drifting stunts to brake. The school's elite crowd witnessed this display for the first time. Absolutely none of them liked seeing some quiet kid steal their spotlight. They immediately vowed to teach this cocky rider a tough lesson. Another school day arrived, filled with the usual annoying complaints. Jay ignored it all, burying his nose in his books. He felt completely empty inside. Meanwhile, Mia watched him closely. Her daydream shattered when a friend suddenly asked what she was thinking. Specifically, she wanted to know if Mia was preparing seriously for the upcoming exams. With a soft smile, Mia claimed she only studied a little now and then. Her classmate warned her to dedicate more time, or she would fail completely. But she added that studying shouldn't be her only focus in life. To her, the president was a boring study machine. But Mia always defended him whenever others spoke poorly of him. She held nothing but respect. In her eyes, he was perfect. Her friend noticed immediately. Mia was deeply in love. Meanwhile, the school's most popular and handsome boys arrived. This included Mew, a legendary heartthrob who easily commanded everyone's undivided attention. Yuna even pointed out how his mere entrance drove everyone crazy. The second Yuna opens her mouth, Minu shuts her down, calling her a grandma. She definitely does not find his teasing funny, especially when he starts sticking out his tongue. His teasing pushes Yuna over the edge, even though her friend begs her. Even with her friend begging her to stay calm, Yuna lets loose a stream of insults. Yet even in her explosive rage, she is still incredibly stunning. Domkang can't help but admire her every move. Minu, on the other hand, thinks his sister is way too dramatic and starts backing away slowly. He pretends he doesn't know her, while Jay completely tunes out the noise. While sneaking away to escape his dramatic sister, Minu spots Jay and decides to greet him. Jay gives him the absolute silent treatment, which Minu notices immediately. Realizing this persistent guy won't leave, Jay coldly tells him he is busy. He demands to know what Minu wants, and Minu jumps at the opportunity. He pitches joining their crew, finally capturing Jay's cold attention for a brief, fleeting moment. Minu brings up that legendary downhill maneuver Jay pulled off earlier. He explains how incredibly blown away the entire team was by that savage downhill drift. Talk about a plot twist, this kid is actually the student council president. Minu admits he came here with one goal in mind. He wants Jay in their squad, but Jay just blankly ignores him again. Minu keeps pushing for an answer, but he gets absolutely nothing back. Watching the two of them talk is totally bizarre to Yuna, who had no idea they knew each other. Mia is also incredibly curious, wondering what the two are discussing. Jay obviously doesn't care, wanting this persistent guy to stop interrupting. Minu is stunned that someone could be so completely indifferent. Sighing, he finally walks away, muttering a half-hearted apology while complaining about Jay's bad attitude. Even though Jay acts like he doesn't care, something lingers. Those words actually spark a tiny bit of curiosity deep inside him. Hearing about bikes triggers a memory from when he was 13. That was the exact year his uncle gifted him a bicycle, saying study isn't everything. His uncle told him that getting some fresh air was just as important. He promised that once Jay got better, they would ride together. Later, the final bell rings, and students stream out of the school. Yuna and Mia walk together after class, complaining about how exhausting high school life is. Yuna expected youth to be romantic, but every day feels exactly the same. Mia laughs, telling her not to worry because their big adventures are coming. Yuna desperately hopes so, because she is utterly sick of studying. Mia urges her to stay positive instead. Just as they're talking, Dom Kang crashes into their space out of nowhere. He excitedly asks Yuna if she wants to watch a zombie movie with him. Yuna shrieks in terror and immediately decides to punish his loud entrance. She has warned him countless times that popping up like that makes him look like a stalker. Nursing his fresh bruise, Dom realizes Yuna packs a serious punch. But he immediately recovers and chases her down, bragging about his giant television. Meanwhile, Jay quietly watches the other students leave from his classroom window. He packs up his things, getting ready to head out. But as he zips his heavy bag, he finds Minu standing right behind him once again. Minu made sure to drop by when Jay was finally free from his books. His goal was simple: give Jay one final chance to make his decision. Minu brought up a race happening tonight, saying someone wanted to challenge him. But Jay just stared right back, his expression totally cold and blank. Jay muttered that he did not even ride yet and to leave him alone. Go play with your friends, Jay said, but Minu just kept pushing. Minu brought up a guy in their crew named TJ, who was talking trash. TJ called Jay's bike complete trash, claiming there was nothing special about it. He hated people who bragged about specs on a cheap ride like that. Minu added that TJ had noticed Jay riding around and wanted a race. He wanted a real showdown tonight, and the meeting spot was Green Park. Jay stayed silent, but the insult to his bike clearly hit a nerve. Now check this out, Green Park was completely packed with noise that night. It was a hotspot for local riders hanging out and showing off their skills. They proved that riding was about way more than just raw speed. The wild stunts from the Zephyro's crew had the entire crowd completely hooked. Everyone watched in awe while Minu stood there, cool and composed. Suddenly, his buddy June snuck up and pressed a freezing cold energy drink on his cheek. Minu flinched and June laughed, telling him to just relax and take it. Minu cracked his drink. He was still absolutely sure Jay would show up. Minu sighed. He knew all they could do now was sit and wait. June suggested they could just practice some sprint races if Jay bailaid. He then asked why Minu was so incredibly obsessed with the guy anyway. No way, Minu snapped. He told June to keep his voice down. June just smiled, saying nobody really needs a grand reason to ride a bike. But seeing how insanely fast Jay was, he had definitely been riding for years. Riding with a crew is just way more fun than going solo, June noted. Their peaceful waiting ended when a rival group marched up, looking for the rookie. They demanded to know where that arrogant kid was, since he was running late. Minu asked for a little more time, but they scoffed, saying he ran. Minu shut them down, fully confident that Jay was not a coward. He told them to cut the trash talk because Jay would arrive any second. He even offered to do a quick warm-up lap while they waited. But they just mocked his injured leg right before Jay finally made his entrance. Right then, Jay finally rolled up, instantly drawing whispers from the crowd. Minu grinned, teasing that it was almost a shame Jay actually showed up. He was looking forward to testing that expensive carbon bike, but maybe next time. TJ stepped forward, scanning Jay from head to toe with a look of pure disbelief. He held out his hand, muttering that he thought the kid had chickened out. Jay completely ignored the gesture, leaving TJ hanging with a cold stare. Minu walked over, admitting he was starting to think Jay had bylayed too. Jay cut him off, telling them to get this over with since he was busy. He told them June would lay out exactly how the race would work. June waved from a safe distance, clearly hoping to avoid getting ignored himself. He introduced himself as June Lei, a proud student representing Sunny High School. He was a third year, surprising Minu with that formal introduction. Another guy named Jack Joe chimed in, letting them know he was a second year. Then Jack broke down the basics of this street race. Simple rules, just a classic one-on-one. The first rider to make it back to the starting line takes everything. Jack figured Jay already knew the route anyway, but just to be sure they had spotters posted at every single turn for safety and to keep them on track. Mew pointed out his opponent, a cocky guy standing nearby named TJ, but Jay just gave him a cold look, telling Mew not to recruit him after this is over. June handed Jay a helmet, reminding him that staying in one piece actually mattered. Checking out the bike, Mew realized Jay had completely stripped off the brakes. Probably to shed weight. With everyone ready, TJ started talking trash. He dared Jay to keep up on that junk, but Mew told TJ to shut up. Mew told him to focus. Annoyed, TJ asked why Mew always had to act so superior. Then the word went out. The entire race was going to be caught on camera. The setup was dead simple. The second the starter gear drops, they start pedaling. Gripping the gear, the starter told them to focus. Then he released it. It fell through the air in slow motion, the moment it touched the pavement. Both riders blasted forward. TJ immediately grabbed the lead. His lighter bike gave him an instant edge, but June knew the real fight starts later. Once they accelerate, things get real. June had to move fast. He wanted every second on camera. Up front, TJ kept shouting trash talk back at Jay. Calling his ride garbage, TJ looked back and told him to get used to his dust. Big mistake, those insults were exactly the fuel Jay needed to start pushing harder. Looking back again, TJ realized Jay was gaining. This was no easy win. He was closing the gap so fast it will make your head spin, forcing TJ to panic. Fortunately for him, they were coming up on a sharp, marked turn. Time to play dirty. TJ kicked some road cones right into his rival's path. But for Jay, dodging obstacles was just another day of riding through city traffic. June saw the dirty move and couldn't believe it. Sure enough, that cone made Jay wobble. June kept the camera rolling, watching the drama unfold. Suddenly, June screamed a warning. There was a car heading right towards them. A head-on crash looked unavoidable, but Jay's reflexes were pure instinct. He used the car like a launchpad, catching air for extra speed. He pulled off a wild stunt that will leave you speechless, completely shattering TJ's confidence. Behind the camera, June was speechless. He knew this footage was absolute gold. Landing safely, Jay did not skip a beat, pedaling even harder. June breathed a massive sigh of relief. That could have ended in a disaster. Furious, June yelled at TJ, telling him to stop acting like a psycho. TJ just shrugged with a fake apology, claiming his foot slipped on purpose. But Jay was far more fearless than TJ expected, keeping his camera steady. June closely watched TJ's every move, waiting for another cheap trick. At the same time, he was completely in awe of Jay's skills. That 360 spin was legendary. Seriously, June wished their entire class could have seen this live. Meanwhile, the race raged on. Jay closed the distance in a flash, pulling up side by side. Honestly, Jay just wanted to end this joke of a race, but TJ assumed Jay was. He kept talking just to mess with him, while a sharp, treacherous curve appeared up ahead. TJ was already plotting his move, hoping to pull off something crazy in this turn. He spotted a critical opening in the bend, choosing to accelerate rather than slow down. But Jay had an entirely different, much superior way of riding. He dominated the corner with absolute mind-blowing precision, carving the perfect line with total ease. TJ now had an unobstructed front row view of this insane display. He actually got to witness a flawless, beautifully executed drift play outright in front of him. Once they cleared the curve, Jay already had a massive, undeniable lead. You could easily see the sheer frustration and burning impatience written all over TJ's face. Jay was just chilling, enjoying the thrill of the race without a single care. Behind them, June was losing his mind, having never expected someone to drift a bicycle. He had no clue where Jay learned to handle a bike like that. It literally looked like that heavy, cheap frame was just an extension of Jay's body. Back behind him, TJ was burning with resentment, unable to close the gap. It made absolutely zero sense that his expensive carbon build was losing to total junk. As TJ fumed, Jay casually glanced back and started waving behind him. Jay mocked him, loudly telling him to get comfortable with the view from back there. This pushed TJ over the edge as he started pedaling like a madman. He screamed that this race was far from over and he would catch up soon. Jay looked back and calmly told him not to waste his breath. He calmly stated his plan to wrap this entire race up in 4 minutes flat. TJ clearly hated that Jay was acting like he already won. In reality, Jay simply despised everyone at his school, treating them like complete fools. The gap between them began to widen incredibly fast. June watched in terror, praying that nothing bad would happen. Jay pedaled smoothly while TJ pushed to his absolute limit. Absolutely furious, TJ swore that he would never let himself get beaten this easily. He vowed to catch him on the final hill, but Jay was entirely unfazed. Jay had already successfully pulled off several insane stunts. June, filming the crazy race, screamed at them to slow down on the steep hill. He knew there was a dangerous metal fence waiting right at the bottom of this hill. One wrong move and someone was going to get seriously hurt. Honestly, neither of these crazy guys is planning on touching their brakes today. June kept screaming, but Jay just launched himself down the steep slope. He flew down, barely even brushing against the barrier, waiting at the bottom. Gently tapping the metal to propel himself forward, he continued riding like it was absolutely nothing. But the guy eating his dust was in serious, immediate trouble. TJ had picked up far too much dangerous momentum, flying down towards that dead-end metal fence. No matter how hard he slammed on his brakes, he just could not stop. A devastating, high-speed collision with that metal barrier was absolutely unavoidable for him now. He slammed directly into the fence, sending his bike tumbling through the air. June caught up slowly and immediately spotted the aftermath of the crash. Jay looked back, saw his rival down, and quickly turned around to check on him. Once he saw TJ was uninjured but done, Jay just smirked. He called him a total loser before casually pedaling away into the distance. TJ drags himself up from the dirt, and June rushes over to check on him. Even on the ground, his raw physical injuries sting less than his utterly shattered pride. Meanwhile, at the finish line, the waiting crowd kills time with all sorts of activities. Mew is busy keeping himself entertained, playing a bike obstacle game on his phone. Hearing that the riders are already back, he gets pumped. That was an incredibly fast race. Plus, he just broke his own record, but then the crowd drops massive news. The sunny cyclist crossed the line first, meaning TJ actually lost this race. TJ's crew is in total shock, refusing to believe it while worrying why he hasn't returned. Mew quietly scoffs, seems all that hype about TJ was just hot air. Still, Mew always maintained one simple rule: the gear doesn't matter, only the rider. He knows he must watch the footage the second June finally gets back. Just then, Day stares Mew down, telling him to remember their pre-race bet. Day rips off his helmet and throws it straight at Mew before pulling his hood up. He warns Mew to never bring up biking at school again, completely shutting him down. Day walks home, leaving everyone whispering about how incredibly tough he is. Meanwhile, Minwoo is practically vibrating with excitement, waiting for his friend to share the details. But the moment Minwoo hears the news, his jaw drops in absolute disbelief. Jay finally appears, literally carrying a battered TJ and shouting for a first aid kit. The crowd panics, shouting that they need to get him to a hospital. TJ grits his teeth through the agonizing pain, unable to process this massive public humiliation. Even injured, TJ remains arrogant, demanding they bring him the culprit. He wants the guy who caused his crash right now. Meanwhile, Jay heads back home. The house is completely dead silent because his mother is currently on duty. But his brother Keijo is waiting, instantly accusing him of wasting time on that bike again. Jay ignores him completely, quietly bending down to unlace his shoes. Keijo keeps nagging him, lecturing endlessly about college prep and entrance exams. He insists there is absolutely no time to go riding with friends. But then the TV suddenly blares the opening theme of Kitty Hour, and Jay jumps. His favorite show is finally starting, making him lose his cool. In his rush, he smashes his toe right against a wooden corner, absolute agony. He rolls on the floor, but the cartoon quickly cures his suffering. Soon, his agonizing pain fades into pure, unadulterated fascination. You would never guess, but this tough kid loves cute cat cartoons. Keijo uses this golden opportunity to slip away and grab a quick shower. He needs to wash away the sweat from the course. Standing under the hot water, intense flashes of the race replay in his mind. A bizarre, electric feeling washes over Keijo. He has never felt anything like this. The very next morning, Jay gets ready for school again. Both tires are completely shredded from yesterday's intense high-speed chase. As he stares at the damage, Keijo steps outside to see what is up. He asks about the wheel, wondering if Jay still plans to ride. Watching Jay prep his broken bike, Keijo thinks his brother has officially lost his mind. But Jay completely ignores him, totally unfazed by his brother's nagging comments. Keijo mutters that pedaling to school is just a massive waste of precious energy. A student shouldn't be exhausting themselves so early in the day. He simply said goodbye. Keijo just could not understand what was wrong with his brother or what he might become if he kept acting like this. Keijo stood. They're looking totally serious when a spotted cat suddenly dashed right in front of him. Freezing in fear, Keijo had chased that same cat before, and right then, he felt the sudden urge to hunt it down again. Meanwhile, Mia was rushing because she had nearly missed her bus, which was absolutely packed that morning, while she was squeezed inside the stuffy bus with everyone else and trapped in awful traffic. Jay was just riding his bicycle, feeling the cool morning wind on his face, inside the bus. Passengers complained about the messy gridlock. Mia looked around, feeling completely out of place among the chatting boys nearby. Suddenly, she spotted something outside that made her cheeks turn bright red. It was her favorite guy riding past on his bicycle. Watching him pedal towards school, she instantly forgot how terrible the stuffy bus ride felt. Before long, the other boys noticed that a simple bicycle could actually outrun their slow bus. They realized they might need a much quicker and better ride. Meanwhile, inside a luxury car that was also trapped in the gridlock, a rich kid was complaining, yet the driver could do nothing but crawl slowly toward the school gates. But when the wealthy student spotted a guy on a bicycle who would easily beat him to class, he told his driver that he would rather cycle than sit in this useless car. As Jay kept riding, the school principal, who was an avid cyclist himself, pedaled right up to him. Jay looked over and saw the headmaster, who remarked that early morning rides were a great way to get some daily exercise. Jay was not surprised to see the principal. Commuting on two wheels, the principal, a remarkably fit man always, rode his bicycle to the office. Jay knew they had to stay incredibly sharp on the road since cyclists were rarely treated with respect. Sidewalks and streets were highly dangerous, and sadly, even designated bike lanes did not keep them safe. Smiling, the older man told Jay to stop chatting and focus on picking up the speed. Laughing, Jay replied that the principal and the student council president definitely should not arrive late. At the front gate of the school, a massive crowd was forming as guards blocked several kids. One second-year student got caught for not wearing his uniform and acting like a complete rebel. He tried to slip inside unnoticed, but his bright hair gave him away instantly. The teacher asked him if he had somehow spilled orange juice all over his head. Plus, the kid was not wearing his name tag or carrying a bag. He claimed he left them inside. But that lame excuse was not going to work with the staff. When Jay and the principal finally rolled up, they found a complete mess waiting for them so early. The headmaster demanded to know what was going on, and the teacher explained they were just keeping the dress code in check. The principal sighed, saying, "This was a terrible way to start their morning. Honestly, you cannot make this up." All the students caught in this group were the most popular, good-looking kids. He wanted to protect the school reputation, telling them to be far more careful with their outfits, giving him their best puppy dog eyes. The troublemakers promised they would follow the rules from now on. Seconds later, they bolted like wild kids, but that good-looking student with the bright orange hair. He paused to listen as several beautiful girls walked into the room. Since when were such gorgeous girls around? He could not help wondering. Being small and cute, he instantly caught their attention for lunch. The principal noticed the boy still had his classic youthful charm. But the janitor quickly reminded him of his scheduled morning lecture. Meanwhile, the classroom was packed with kids loudly chatting and sleeping. While some tried to nap, Yuna showed off her phone to Mia. It displayed a high-quality photo of the principal alongside some pretty funny text. He definitely had style. Then, Yuna noticed Mia staring at someone. Mia claimed she was just watching Jay roll up on his bike. Yuna immediately teased her, joking that someone was deeply in love. Suddenly, Yuna's own admirer shouted her name from across the room. She playfully hurled a thick book right at his forehead to quiet him down. She warned him to stop shouting behind her, but he just stood there smiling. To him, her violent reaction was just her special way of flirting. While the classroom erupted in loud chaos, Jay sat quietly reading his book. Nearby, some boys discussed a viral bicycle race video they saw online. Even non-bikers were totally hooked, and Mew happened to walk by. Jay mentioned he had already watched the clip June recorded of that intense race. Mew's friends were shocked. How did Jay know the student council president? Meanwhile, Mia spent the entire class closely paying attention to her crush. The rest of the room was completely bored out of their minds. Some slept, while Mia occasionally glanced over at her favorite boy. She desperately hoped he would look back, if only for a second. Just imagining him looking her way made her face flush bright red. But when he finally did look, his expression was completely cold. After school, someone spotted Jay from a distance, getting ready to ride. Unable to resist the temptation, Dom Kang wanted to try the bike out himself. He placed a hand on Jay's shoulder, but got totally ignored. Left standing there, he could only watch as Jay quietly rode off. Jade walked over, warning Dom Kang he would probably break the bike. Dom Kang instantly cheered up when he heard Yuna walking over. Grinning, he asked her if she noticed how amazing his skin looked. Yuna bluntly replied his face was just oily from sleeping in class. But Dom Kang kept teasing her, telling her to stop acting tough. He claimed he caught her staring at him while he was sleeping. Annoyed by his nonsense, Yuna playfully kicked the back of his leg. She sweetly told him to shut up while Jay quietly headed home on his bicycle. But suddenly, Jay heard a weird squeaking noise coming from his front tire. He stopped to check and realized his tire was completely flat. Right then, TJ and his crew rolled up to mock his ride. Jay squinted through the guy's glasses, barely recognizing TJ's face after all this time. Meanwhile, Dom Kang walked home feeling great about his interaction with Yuna. Even though his body ached, he had to rush to his job. That is when he spotted Jay standing alone from afar on the sidewalk. He wanted to ride the bike Jay kept to himself. Dom Kang noticed Jay was surrounded. Some local troublemakers were clearly bothering him. TJ smugly asked if Jay had slept. Well, because his own forehead was still throbbing, Jay, completely clueless who was. Talking casually asked TJ who he even was. TJ went ballistic, thinking he was being mocked or disrespected. Kicking Jay's bike, TJ barked that Jay was acting way too arrogant just because he won a race with that piece of junk. Staring at his fallen ride, Jay instantly snapped. TJ kept ranting. First, Jay humiliated him in front of everyone with that garbage bike, and now he was playing dumb, but Jay was completely done listening. He threw a quick punch to shut TJ up and pay him back for kicking his bike. But Jay was no fighter, and his weak, clumsy punch did absolutely nothing. Still, it was more than enough to completely trigger TJ and his crew. They jumped him, knocked him down, and stomped his glasses right into the dirt. TJ crouched over Jay, mockingly asking how he planned to show his face in school. Tomorrow, TJ sneered, asking if Jay finally remembered him now, but even after all of that, Jay blankly shook his head. TJ decided another beatdown might help jog his memory. That's when Dom Kang spoke up, instantly stealing the spotlight with his fearless attitude. TJ turned, completely clueless, and dismissed this giant newcomer as just another random loser. Dom Kang laughed, calling out how bullies always need a 3-on-1 advantage to fight. He dropped his heavy backpack on the pavement, cracking his knuckles. Dom Kang declared he was jumping in. TJ scoffed, asking if this guy was lost. That's when his crew frantically whispered to him, asking if he had any idea who they were dealing with. They murmured in terror about Dom Kang, warning that he was dangerous. Get ready, things are getting serious. Whatever the crew said, it worked. TJ instantly backed down, glaring at Jay and saying he could not stand losers from that school anyway. TJ sneered that Jay should thank Dom Kang because he was incredibly lucky today. The bullies quickly turned and walked away. Before things got completely out of hand, Dom Kang realized that aside from being cool, he was actually quite terrifying, since just showing his face made those punks run away. Dom Kang offered a helping hand, but Jay totally ignored him. Getting back on his feet, Jay muttered he was fine and told Dom to leave him alone. Confused, Dom Kang scratched his head, wondering why everyone always treated him like some kind of plague. Not far away, Mina was walking down the street, flanked by 2 girls planning to head out for some karaoke, but up ahead, as Mina walked, he ran right into TJ, the same bully who used to torment him. TJ made a sarcastic comment, mocking how nice it must be to have family money, since that was the only reason girls hung around him, but Mino canceled his plans the second he spotted Jay in the distance. Mino apologized to his friends, promising they would reschedule karaoke for another night. The girls looked highly let down. Nearby, Dom Kang was desperately trying to explain to Jay that his bike was totally wrecked and he was badly hurt. Right then, Mino rushed over, asking what happened to his face and if he got into a fight. Dom explained that some rival school punks were jumping Jay when he stepped in. Mino knew exactly what that meant. The guys who were with him earlier were clearly looking for a rematch. Jay turned to Mino and asked if he was finally satisfied with that answer, telling him to just get lost. Mino stood there, feeling guilty. Dom Kang apologized for dragging Jay into this mess. He told Jay to just forget the whole disaster and never bring up their team again. But those injuries looked bad. Dom insisted they find a pharmacy. Jay refused. Still, Dom knew something was seriously wrong with him. Dom even offered to walk him home, but Jay fiercely rejected the help, telling him to back off. He barked at Dom to stay completely out of his life, and that was the final straw. Dom decided to take drastic action, stepping right up into Jay's personal space. One swift blow, Jay went completely limp. Mino panicked at the sight. "Why did you do that?" Mino yelled, but Dom shrugged. This was nothing compared to what Yuna would have done to him. Mino still couldn't believe he would hit an already beaten-up guy. "If I didn't, we would have stood here arguing all day," Dom said. He hoisted Jay onto his shoulder and told Mino to grab the bike. Mino asked where they were going, but Dom had absolutely no clue. Turns out neither of them actually knew where Jay lived. Nearby girls murmured about how brutal he looked. Mino headed off to a pharmacy to buy some medicine and bandages. While waiting outside, Mino noticed Dom. Kang dropped something on the ground. Soon, they were both standing there, looking at the unconscious Jay, completely unsure of what to do next. They had no address. As they wandered nearby, they spotted a teenager looking at his phone, which showed a picture of a cute white cat. This was KJ, Jay's younger brother, taking a quick detour back home. Before heading off to class, some loud talking nearby caught his ear. He figured they were just sunny high bullies until he spotted an unconscious body lying near them. Squinting, KJ thought he recognized the face. Who on earth was that? That's when KJ realized it was Jay, his brother. Startled, he cried out, catching the attention of Dom and Mino, who were standing nearby. Dom Kang thought he heard the kid mention Jay's name, and Mino agreed. Terrified, KJ froze, completely unsure of what to do. As those massive guys stared him down, he feared he was next. Mino wondered if he knew Jay, while Dom suspected they were related. Avoiding eye contact, the boy claimed he had no idea who Jay was, calmly walking away, but Dom Kang wasn't fooled. He was absolutely sure he heard the kid mention Jay's name. Mino observed him closely and realized this boy seemed incredibly important. He reminded him of someone. Then, piecing the puzzle together, they realized he looked just like Jay, only younger. That's when they knew KJ was lying and was definitely Jay's brother. I mean, who does that, even after seeing his own brother passed out? KJ just walked away calmly as if they were strangers, absolutely furious. Furious, the dude wanted to know why he was acting so calm while running. Dom scooped up the unconscious Jay, and Mino grabbed the bicycle. The two began tailing KJ. After a brief chase, everything was finally cleared up, and KJ understood these guys were actually his brother's friends. When asked why he abandoned his brother, KJ admitted he was terrified. They would beat him to a pulp. He just wanted to get away safe. Looking at Jay, Dom Kang realized just how selfish he had been. KJ remarked that by running around and getting into fights, it seemed Jay had made some pretty good friends. Reaching his house, they placed him in his room, where Dom Kang began patching him up. Cleaning up his forehead, Dom finished the tough task of doing everything he could. Now it was up to the patient. KJ, however, couldn't believe his brother had such unbearable friends. Minu asked about the bandage under Dom Kang's nose, but Dom claimed he had his own secret. Minu, being quite curious, ripped off the bandage. Let's see what he's hiding. Seeing the mark, Minu joked that if the principal saw it, Dom Kang would be in serious trouble. Minu asked KJ if anyone else was in the house. Looking around, Minu noticed it was just a typical boys' room. Minu also saw KJ staring at some security cameras, and KJ said he was keeping watch so nothing got stolen. The more KJ talked, the more Minu thought he acted just like his annoying brother. Dom and Minu rummaged through the room until they found a picture frame showing Jay's uncle and a bicycle from when Jay was a kid. Minu approached to show the frame, but Dom Kang found it weird for him to get so close. Looking at the photo, Dom Kang realized that the kid couldn't be KJ, that annoying brat. Instead, the kid in the photo looked kind, and it was Jay himself. Minu pointed out that Jay had owned that bike since he was little, then wondered why he showed up for the race after saying he wouldn't. Dom Kang found it weird that Minu was whispering, after staring for a while. Dom Kang started noticing that the boy was gradually transforming into Yuna. Dom Kang thought he was hallucinating because the guy looked so much like Yuna. Blushing, Dom Kang wondered if he had just been feeling a little lonely lately. Until then, Dom Kang hadn't been close enough friends with Minu to know that he and Yuna were twins. Minu thought it was a family photo, but couldn't place the boy in it. Suddenly, Jay woke up, face covered in bandages, asking what they were doing in his house. Minu and Dom Kang exchanged looks, asking if he was finally awake and if he slept well. Jay got up, walked over, and snatched the photo frame from their hands. Angry, Jay told them to keep their dirty hands off his things and get out. Minu grabbed a mirror and showed Jay his face, explaining they only brought him there to patch him up. Dom Kang proudly said he didn't need to thank him since he was only doing his duty. Instantly, Dom Kang ripped all the bandages off Jay's face. Jay told them he wasn't in the mood to argue. He was tired and wanted them gone. Dom Kang put a hand on Jay's shoulder, asking if he was seriously throwing them out like that. Minu and Dom Kang decided Jay was being pretty ungrateful, especially after they helped. Honestly, we all knew they wouldn't leave quietly. Open Pandora's box by booting up Jay's computer. Jay furiously yelled at them not to touch his machine, but they completely ignored his protests. While Minu pinned the angry boy down, Dom Kang eagerly logged in anyway. Everything Jay was studying on the screen. Grinning, Dom Kang promised he would introduce him to a dark path leading to an entirely new world. He added that Jay should be grateful they met, but Jay still wanted them away from his computer. Meanwhile, KJ figured heading to class was a much better use of his precious time. He was wasting way too much time with those three. Finally, Dom Kang finished setting up the sketchy link. He asked if they were ready, and right then, seeing what was on the screen, Jay's brother realized they had uncovered a forbidden world. Everyone gathered around to watch the wild content Dom Kang pulled up, though blushing. Just like the rest, Jay's brother got mad at these idiots for downloading junk files. He complained his PC was a mess and paused for a second, carefully checking if anyone was coming before he could even delete the files. Jay returned. He was back this time to deliver a quick message from their mom. Meanwhile, Minu and Dom Kang were chatting about the video. Minu really liked Keijo's style and suggested hanging out more. Minwang agreed to meet at school tomorrow since they both had things to do, but then Minu remembered his part-time job after school ended. Minu wanted to end the day with some real excitement, taking full advantage of the moment his phone rang. Mew saw his perfect chance. He immediately gathered the entire crew, calling an emergency meeting tonight and ordering everyone to attend. It was crucial for TJ's crew to be there. Soon, everyone showed up just like Mew wanted, though plenty of them were complaining. Hearing the whining, TJ smirked, telling them to take up any issues directly with Mew. A few guys wondered if something major had actually happened between them, since TJ was specifically ordered to attend. Playing dumb, TJ shrugged and said it was not the first time Mew pulled this kind of stunt, but June pointed out that Mew was still the one who started their crew, so they owed him a listen. He surely had a good reason for calling them tonight. TJ laughed, claiming June was just backing up his buddy from school. That jab made June pretty tense, but before he could snap back, he saw Mew walking in. He walked in wearing a dead serious expression, as if something massive had just occurred. TJ, completely unfazed, just kept joking around. Clearly annoyed by the disrespect, Mew slowly adjusted his jacket and slipped a ring off his finger. He calmly stated he was settling things with TJ, and without hesitation, marched up and punched him straight in the face. The brutal blow sent TJ crashing down, forcing his boys to help him up. Honestly, nobody saw that coming. The stunned crowd demanded an explanation for this sudden assault. Mew coldly told TJ that he needed to stop trash-talking their crew and get lost while he still could. His words shocked the room, leaving everyone demanding to know the truth. Furious, TJ demanded to know why he just got hit. Mew warned him not to play stupid, stating he would not let absolute losers mess with his team members. Smirking, TJ asked if this was about that student council president. He dismissed him as a complete fool who did not realize Minhu was laying a trap. Then TJ boldly claimed that the one who actually needed to leave the crew was Minhu. Shocked by this betrayal, Minhu realized that TJ was actively trying to replace him. Nearby, June watched as the tension started to build. TJ pointed out that the entire team was already highly dissatisfied with Minhu. Minhu immediately challenged them to say it to his face. And one by one, they actually stood up and started shouting out their complaints. They complained about sudden meetings called with absolutely zero warning or heads up. They pointed out that even if TJ was not official, he still made sense. They argued that no one should be kicked out without a vote. But Minhu had forced them to gather today just to get rid of TJ. Satisfied, TJ turned to gloat at Minhu. He brought up that Minhu had not been riding lately due to his leg, and claimed all he did was hang around with various girls. He mockingly suggested that Minhu just start his own club using his rich dad's money. June finally stepped in, telling them they had crossed the line. Hearing enough, Minhu proposed a high-stakes race to decide who gets to stay. June knew this was a terrible idea, but TJ loved the offer. He wondered how Minhu would even ride with his injury, but knew he would win. TJ accepted and suggested a 3-on-3 race instead. The rules were set: 3 riders from each side would compete in this showdown. The losers would leave, and Minhu claimed he could beat them alone. June refused to let him do that, knowing Minhu's leg could not handle it. But since absolutely nobody else volunteered, the matchup was officially locked in. It would be Sunny High against Mountain High, and TJ started mocking them again. He asked if anyone else wanted to join those 2 losers. Only absolute silence met his question, as no one was willing to help. So it was settled: Sunny High versus Mountain High. TJ was thrilled about the 2-on-3 matchup as they glared at each other. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, things were incredibly boring for the students. It was enough to put anyone to sleep, and one student had a wild dream. He gathered magical spheres and summoned a giant dragon to grant his wish. The dragon could grant any wish, and the student asked for a perfect body. He wanted to look exactly like Chris Hemsworth. The dragon agreed and told him to eat a very specific magic mushroom. He ate it, agonizingly transforming his body. Now he was a gorgeous, handsome young man who made every girl's heart race. He strutted around wearing a stylish coat that only tall guys can pull off. It gave him a slim look while hiding his massive, muscular physique. All the girls admired his style, desperately asking if he had a girlfriend. Playing the gentleman, he offered to charge them for making their hearts race. They happily agreed and immediately pulled his head close to their chests. He could hear multiple heartbeats going off all at the exact same time. The dream was so comfortable that he started drooling all over his desk. Suddenly, a distant voice calling his name woke him from his sleep. He saw his classmate, instantly annoyed it was all a dream. Xinjiang asked about it while he muttered about girls crowding his head. She pressed for details. He quickly brushed it off as nothing. Instead, he simply thanked her for the milk carton she had brought him. Though calling her little water always left her pretty discouraged. Gulping it down, he imagined that calcium boost making him taller. Suddenly, a close friend snuck up and dragged him into a headlock. The sudden move made him choke, wasting almost all the milk he was drinking. Meanwhile, some guy was trying to make a move on a girl. So he recorded the bromance between his buddies, finding it highly entertaining. He found it hilarious. Meanwhile, others passed by in the background. June asked Minhu what he planned to do, and the answer was obvious. The plan: win the race and kick TJ out of the crew. His friend worried how Minu would pull that off with an unhealed leg. Laughing it off, Minu said his doctor actually recommended some light cycling. But his friend warned that light cycling would never prepare him for a race. He added that the relay format put their team at a massive disadvantage. He suggested asking the student council president, Jay. No way, Minu absolutely refused to drag Jay into team matters. While his friend grew worried, the student council president sat in his classroom. Feeling pretty bored, Jay was busy drawing little bicycles on his desk. He was totally lost in thought when someone placed an envelope on his desk. Looking up, he realized it was Mia, who brought something for his injuries. She seemed concerned, but Jay coldly said he never asked for help. Seeing him hurt her friend Yuna's feelings, Mia slammed her hand onto the desk. She snapped at Jay, saying when a girl tries to help, you say thank you. The least he could do was show some basic manners and be polite. Mia was furious because her friend Yuna had been miserable all morning. Total embarrassment, Yuna felt incredibly awkward over Mia's loud defense. Things got even wilder when Dom Kang arrived, giving Jay a massive back slap. He wrapped his arm around Jay, asking if he was tired. He asked if Jay stayed up. Yuna watched, completely shocked. She had no idea they knew each other, but Kang said they met online. Yuna had absolutely no clue what he meant, and Mia was just as confused. Just then, a classmate called for Jay, saying a senior wanted to see him. Dom Kang teased that Jay was becoming way too popular before shrugging it off. He went over to Yuna's side, and she immediately showered him with love. Rumors were already flying. Apparently, the two were starting to date. While some girls gossiped about them, they completely missed the third-year boy nearby. When the girls finally noticed him standing there, they instantly turned bright red. But June was a totally easygoing guy, so he just let them leave. They walked away whispering about how incredibly handsome he was, but also curious. Specifically, one girl whispered she heard he was not even interested in girls. June overheard the gossip, instantly making him feel incredibly awkward about the situation. His expression completely shifted, however, when he noticed Jay's heavily bruised face. That was when June realized why his friend Mew had been so furious with TJ. Seeing the way Jay blankly stared at him, June realized the guy had absolutely no memory of him. He honestly started wondering if Jay suffered from some kind of facial recognition disorder. So June spent 5 solid minutes explaining exactly who he was and how they originally met. It actually worked. Jay finally clued in and remembered him. June then begged for a massive favor. He told him everything about what Mew did after seeing Jay's face. He hated dragging Jay into this drama, but refused to abandon his friend. Jay was completely blunt. He wanted out. June tried to explain that things had gotten totally unfair for them. If Minwoo lost this race, he would be kicked out of his own crew. Jay calmly asked why that should even matter to him. Still, June let him know the race was happening tonight at 8 p.m. in the usual spot. He added that if Jay changed his mind, they would be waiting for him. Meanwhile, the crowd had gathered. Everyone was debating who would win, knowing the loser gets kicked out forever. Total tension. June sat on a bench, tying his shoe. Mew felt totally confident, shouting it was time to start. It was already 8 minutes past schedule. June started losing hope. Would Jay even show up? TJ's crew looked smug. Their 3-on-2 advantage gave them an absolute edge. June noticed that TJ had actually added a brake to his bike this time. He even called him out on replacing his front wheel with a fancy 8mm carbon one. As expected, TJ started trash-talking, pointing out that Mew was completely rusty. Laughing, he told Mew to take it easy, unless he wanted to break his other leg too. Sick of the endless trash talk, Mew snapped that they should just start the race. But right as they reviewed the rules, a sudden sound caught everyone's attention. A gorgeous girl pulled up on a scooter, instantly turning every head. She completely captivated the guys with her flashy, confident entrance. Slipping off her helmet, she smiled and introduced herself as Harry Lee. She explained she was a commentator for an online biking channel called Paprika TV. Having heard rumors about this underground race, she just had to check it out. Now that her helmet was off, her stunning looks had the guys completely blushing. She then asked if they would mind if she livestreamed the whole thing. Mew, playing the total charmer, said it was an honor to have her there. TJ loved it, excited to humiliate Mew in front of a live audience. Harry quickly checked her 4G signal and kicked off the stream. Online viewers immediately flooded in, fascinated to watch this high-stakes showdown. A race where the loser gets kicked out of the crew. Talk about absolute drama. The official, briefly distracted by Harry, finally got back to business. He announced that it would be a classic relay race. But instead of standard batons, they would be passing glowing LED bracelets. With just a little pressure, these slap bracelets would lock onto their wrists. He quickly demonstrated how they worked, slapping one right onto his own arm. The racers had to drop their bracelets at the target zones. First team done wins. And for the losers, everyone knew the stakes: immediate expulsion from the group. The losing captain was put on the spot. Was he really ready for this? Honestly, he didn't even get why they were asking him that. With a 3-2 advantage, the matchup already looked incredibly unfair. He just shrugged it off. Numbers wouldn't mean a thing on the road. In the end, both sides agreed there would be no crying about unfairness later. With the terms set, the first riders stepped up to grab their gear. Mina faced TJ right at the start. Tempers flared as they grabbed their armbands while Harry Lee started her stream. She hyped up her viewers. The showdown between Sunny and Mountain High was live. Her camera was rolling, ready to capture every second of the action. TJ wanted nothing more than to humiliate the trash from the opposing school. The opening leg pitted Mountain High's Hyung Min against his rival, June. Mew noted that the initial stretch had too many curves for a bike advantage. This meant raw leg power mattered, and June worried his injured leg would fail. With his knee in this shape, finishing those final sections felt almost impossible. To make things worse, TJ's position in the lineup remained a total mystery. He had to guess their play. Left with no choice, June's buddy stepped up. His teammate took the first heat, allowing June to save his strength. June told him not to overdo it. He was ready to handle the rest. The riders lined up, ready to explode the moment the signal dropped. Off-duty teammates glued their eyes to their phones, watching the live stream. Harry Lee got into position, her camera locked onto the starting grid. Now watch, the race begins the instant that metal cog hits the asphalt. The starter held the heavy metal gear lightly, ready to let it slip. He let go, and the moment it clinked against the ground, they bolted. They launched forward instantly, with June pulling off a surprisingly fast start. Harry Lee kept up on her own bike, filming the chaos in real time. Her helmet cam captured everything, making the color-coded teams easy to track. Blue was Mountain High, while red showed who was riding for Sunny High. Suddenly, Mountain High surged ahead, sending the stream chat into a total frenzy. Spectators back at the finish line watched the screen with bated breath. Every single pedal stroke was met with cheers and anxious gasps. But June just didn't have Mew's level of skill and started slipping behind. His rival from Sunny High sneered, asking if that was really his max. Even though June was clearly pushing his absolute limits, the gap was closing. The Sunny High rider hammered the pedals, creeping closer and closer. The rival grew suspicious. Why was June staying so dead silent? To avoid any traps, the lead rider decided to widen the distance. He kicked into high gear, desperate to leave June in the dust. The leader pushed with everything he had, but he couldn't shake him. That gap just wouldn't grow, keeping the tension at an absolute peak. The pressure was suffocating. It felt like he could be overtaken any second. And that's when the truth finally hit him right in the face. The second-place rider used a slipstream, but Jun, despite being quiet, had plans. Harry, the commentator, noticed his strategy and immediately explained the move. She broke down how drafting cuts through the heavy wind resistance. This technique, popular in bicycle racing, is known as slipstreaming. She called it a brilliant move for a high school competition. The crowd assumed Jun was just biding his time behind the leader. He was just waiting for the perfect moment to make his move. But overtaking Jun was never going to be easy after Hyung Min. Nobody believed it was possible, yet the rival was confident. He believed that clearing the final hill would play to his strengths. As the Sunny High competitor passed Jun, he thanked him for the draft. That brief comment infuriated his opponent, but the real insult was the overtake. That sudden move put Sunny High in the lead. Now, raw power was everything. The leader shifted gears, pedaling with all his remaining energy. The trailing pack noticed the gear shift immediately. The speakers roared that the Sunny High racer with the red armband had taken the lead. A massive shock. Sunny High's racer overtook his rival, especially on the uphill stretch, leaving Mountain High's competitor falling behind. The distance kept growing, making a comeback look completely impossible right now. Jun's crew, watching the live stream, were losing their minds. He was unreal. Meanwhile, the second-place rider was absolutely clueless about how Jun climbed that mountain so fast. Ahead, the next pair of riders waited at the handoff zone for the final leg. The roar of Harry's scooter echoed nearby, meaning the leaders were almost there. Minwoo told his rival to get ready and wished him good luck. Confident they could still make it, but Minwoo had no idea what was actually happening on the mountain roads behind them. Mew nervously asked Jiwon if their teammate could somehow catch up to Jun. Now watch, here is where it gets intense. Mew spotted a lone figure approaching, but it was Jun. Jun pointed forward, and Mew quickly saw the rider. Jiwon's face fell, knowing this put their team at a major disadvantage. Jun was flying solo at the front, completely unchallenged. Mew watched with pride, knowing his friend's true potential, as Jun flashed a confident grin. Fueled by that hype, Mew told his rival the race was almost over. Jun quickly unstrapped his baton bracelet, preparing the handoff. To Mew, Jun shouted a quick good luck before launching himself forward. Harry announced that Sunny High's second rider had cleanly taken the handoff. Their online supporters believed that if Mew kept this pace, they had this win in the bag. Riding closely behind, Harry watched the leader. She noted that Sunny High was maintaining a massive gap over everyone else. Soon, Mew would cross into the final stretch of the course. His teammates watching from the sidelines cheered him on, fully aware of how hard both Mew and Jun had worked to secure this moment. Meanwhile, Jun cracked open an energy drink to recover, looking deeply exhausted, yet incredibly focused, quietly praying his teammate would bring home the victory. He wouldn't push himself too hard. That scary thought lingered deeply in Jun's mind, recalling the accident where Minwoo severely injured his leg. Jun couldn't shake those grim memories until, sitting down, he spotted someone familiar right in front of him. Meanwhile, in the race, Minwoo was giving everything he had, knowing that if he lost, Jun would also get expelled from the team. But suddenly, Minwoo's leg started throbbing as the pain became absolutely unbearable. Over at his transition point, TJ was anxiously waiting for his teammate to ride. TJ grew frustrated when some spectator watching the race muttered that he might be the one getting kicked off the team. The rival school was already dominating, and TJ was furious seeing how happy they looked about it. He thought his teammate was finally approaching to hand over the bracelet, or so he believed, but then TJ saw that red bracelet and realized it wasn't his teammate, but the rival racer pulling away with a massive gap. Everyone noticed the rider was going so fast, he looked more like a motorcycle than a bicycle. TJ was furious at his teammate, who should have finished his leg ages ago, far behind and completely spent. TJ's Struggling teammate was desperately trying to pedal and hand off the bracelet as fast as possible. On their phones, countless fans followed the live broadcast, realizing that the Sunny School team had reached the final stretch. Meanwhile, Mountain School was still lagging behind with their second rider. Tuning into the live stream while drying off from a shower, viewers listened as the commentator noted that the gap between the teams was growing. This pleased Minu's former friend, who apparently still harbored some lingering affection for their old bond. In the race, Minu pedaled desperately despite the intense pain, speeding along. Completely out of control, Minu spotted a stray cat playing in the road. It was too late to stop. Swerving hard to avoid hitting the cat, Minu overexerted his already injured leg, making it far worse. Lacking any support, Minu fell to the asphalt with a brutal crash, the exact worst-case scenario. The commentator described everything, leaving every single viewer watching the stream in absolute shock. His loyal friend, June, was completely devastated, while Minu, collapsed on the pavement, realized his race was over. Rushing over to give Minu immediate first aid, the commentator announced that the live coverage was being suspended due to the accident. She turned off the stream, leaving everyone in agonizing suspense. June knew Minu shouldn't have pushed his broken leg so hard. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the crash, TJ was pedaling like a madman, believing they could still make a comeback. But up ahead, to his absolute shock, TJ spotted the wrecked bike with Minu on the ground getting emergency medical help. It was an unbelievably perfect moment for TJ, who couldn't help but grin. Deep down, he knew this outcome was bound to happen. Riding with a busted leg was an insane risk from day one. But TJ felt his own luck was just unbeatable. Down on the dirt, Minu struggled to make out the figures standing above him. Slowly, his blurry vision cleared as Harry lay approached and asked if he could stand. Glancing to the side, Minu noticed someone else, Jay, who bluntly asked why he was lying on the ground. Minu told him not to stare and to just deliver the message. In response, Jay silently bent down and unclipped the red race bracelet from Minu's wrist. Both Minu and even the announcer finds this bizarre, but right after, Jay snaps the tracking bracelet onto his wrist. He remembers leaving food back home for his little brother, alongside a quick note about going out to fix his bike and coming right back. Yet his brother probably knew exactly what Jay was really heading out to do. June rushes to explain the track layout and the rules to him. But Minu begs Jay to back off. Jay calmly tells him not to get the wrong idea. He only has some unfinished business to settle. Minu sees right through the lie and forces a smile. Suddenly, Mew yells over and tosses Jay a helmet, telling him to teach those punks a real lesson. Jay stares at the helmet, hesitant, because it is completely drenched in sweat and reeks. Seeing his disgust, Mew snaps back. His helmet smells perfectly fine, but Jay's attitude is what is truly unbearable. Seeing them bickering, June decides they are well enough and heads back to her scooter, ready to rejoin the race. But then she spots a very familiar bike that she instantly recognizes. Meanwhile, TJ is cruising ahead, practically singing as the finish line nears. He thinks this entire competition is a joke, a complete walk in the park. He even feels a bit bad for Mew now, rather than annoyed, since the guy tried racing while badly injured. Honestly, TJ finds it pretty boring to finish all alone. Back at the start, Mew smiles. TJ should be terrified because a total beast is hunting him down, and TJ soon senses it. He cannot believe another rider is closing the gap at this ridiculous, inhuman speed. He looks back and it is Jay. TJ freezes, completely blindsided. What is Jay even doing out here? The easy victory he expected is officially off the table. TJ hammers the pedals desperately, knowing if he slips up now, the rival school takes the win. Seeing Jay tailing him like this is terrifying. The guy rides like a wild beast, hunting its prey. With the finish line so close, TJ refuses to lose this race. He is confident no one can pass him on the upcoming downhill. To lock in this win, he just needs to leave Jay behind. Right here, feeling the suffocating pressure, TJ, drenched in sweat, gears up to execute his strategy the moment he hits the descent. But we all know it is never that simple, as he plunges down the slope, terrifying memories of his past crash flash. Back, the sheer terror of another violent wreck paralyses him, forcing TJ to break and surrender his tiny lead. Meanwhile, Jay is a literal savage on descents. To him, brakes do not exist. Quite literally, because his bike has none, and he does not care. Instead, Jay pulls off a rock walk mid-descent, executing a sharp 180-degree drift, routine stuff for him. After sticking the landing, Jay cruises right past, leaving TJ in the dust, fuming. TJ knows any slip-up now ruins his race and gets him kicked off the roster. Ahead, Jay sighs deeply and pulls over. TJ watches him wait there, seemingly looking back. TJ yells out, demanding to know what Jay is planning, and orders him to get lost. Jay just stands there, staring. TJ freezes up. He has no idea what to do. He slams on the brakes, praying he can stop in time to avoid a nasty crash. Jay does not even flinch, cold, still, his face is completely blank. TJ screeches to a halt, inches away. He is absolutely losing his mind. He screams, asking if Jay has completely lost his mind, blocking the path like that. Jay calmly replies that he is only here because TJ kicked his bike yesterday. Then Jay drops a bizarre question. TJ is caught totally off guard. He wants to settle this right now, settle it and see who is truly faster. If TJ wants a real challenge, Jay is more than happy to return the favor. The deal is simple, a no-rules sprint straight to the finish line. Jay locks eyes with him, wanting to see if that expensive carbon bike is truly fast. TJ scoffed. This guy had to be joking. No way a piece of junk beats his lightweight ride. Jay just stares back, silence, more intense than any trash talk. He warns TJ not to blame his gear later. He should only blame himself. TJ snaps, "Shut your mouth and stop wasting my time right now. Let's just do this." The two line up at the starting point. Then they explode forward. Both are giving it absolutely everything they have got. Early on, TJ manages to pull ahead by a tiny fraction of a second. TJ smirks, watching Jay trail behind, but the tables are about to turn. Watch closely, because this is the exact moment Jay completely changes the game. He stomps on the pedals, gaining massive speed and leaving TJ in his dust. TJ is utterly speechless. There is no way this random kid is stealing his win. Meanwhile, back at the sidelines, the crew spots Mew and June returning. Everyone crowds around, anxious to see if Mew is actually doing okay. Mew looks down, admitting he feels awful for letting the whole team down. His leg just was not ready yet, and the damage was already done. June sighs, reminding him that he warned him not to do something so reckless. Pushing himself like that was incredibly stupid, and Mew knows it. Harry Lee pipes up, saying he is lucky he did not break anything worse. Crashing at that extreme speed usually ends with a trip straight to the hospital. TJ's crew initially looks smug, celebrating early, until they look a bit closer. Someone else is riding right beside Jay, holding up a red flag. It makes no sense. They only had 2 riders registered today. Meanwhile, Jay completely dominates the lead, leaving TJ with absolutely no room to catch up. For TJ, this is total defeat. Everything he worked for is gone. He cannot comprehend how his top-tier ride is losing to actual trash. Down at the finish line, the entire crowd stands in complete shock. But then, the mystery rider holding the red flag finally comes into focus. It is the Sunny School Student Council president, the guy TJ lost to before. He is known for being ruthless. Instantly, angry protests erupt from the crowd. They claim it is totally unfair, since the race became a 2 versus 3. As Jay crosses the line, his face is still entirely blank. TJ is completely crushed, humiliated by the exact same opponent once more. Jay pulls off his helmet and quietly remarks that the junk bike was not his, taking that insult directly to heart, just as TJ looked ready to instantly throw hands. Bystanders quickly reminded him that the guy wasn't even on their official roster. No one got why this random outsider had joined Sunny School's squad. It made absolutely zero sense for a total stranger to interfere in their official, high-stakes competition. But Mew stepped up, clarifying that he knew from the start it would be a 3 versus 2 battle no matter how things ended. He added that the moment he crashed off his ride, the high-stakes match was already completely over for them. Smiling, Mew told TJ that there was no need for any more words. He simply ripped the team patch straight off his jacket, throwing it down as everyone watched his sudden, dramatic exit. Talk about heartbreaking, some felt gutted, while others thought he went too far. Before walking away, Minhu looked back, coldly telling them he hoped they were happy. Now and to watch over the crew, Mew threw one last sorrowful look at his former mates. Knowing his hands were completely tied, June gently placed a hand on Mew's shoulder, guiding him away. The heavy sting of defeat weighed on Mew, and because of that, June had to walk away from the team alongside Minhu, but to June, it really wasn't a big deal. They could easily start fresh with their own crew. Just then, Jay threw a helmet straight at Mew. Grabbing the helmet, Mew warmly thanked Jay for backing him up during the tense ride. Jay didn't respond, simply ignoring Mew completely as he turned and rode off. Classic Jay, he hadn't changed a bit. Meanwhile, Harry Lee noticed a strange detail about Jay's bike, realizing he was riding a cycle inherited from someone she knew incredibly well. Mew limped forward through the heavy leg pain, prompting June to offer a ride home. Mew snapped back that he wasn't some helpless kid and pointed out his place was right around the corner. Believe it or not, TJ felt zero joy. For the second time in his life, victory tasted exactly like a bitter defeat. His crew asked if he was tagging along, but TJ was lost in thought, pondering the humiliation he suffered and what everyone would say about his pathetic performance. Suddenly, a voice mocked the incredibly sour expression on his face, prompting TJ, instantly ready to throw hands, to stand up fast but freeze when he recognized Vinny Hong. Vinny smirked, asking if TJ was the absolute idiot who wanted to challenge him. Seeing him, TJ felt a wave of relief. It felt like ages since they last met. TJ grinned, asking what Vinny was doing here. Vinny joked, asking if he wasn't allowed around. TJ quickly shot back that of course he didn't mean it in a bad way like that. Vinny explained that he caught the entire race, noting Mew's legs seemed perfectly fine. But TJ's buddies sneered that Minhu was nothing but a complete loser now. They smugly explained that since they officially won the race, the terms were set, and as Mew had officially kicked himself off the team, Vinny joked that with the cat gone, the little mice had come out to play. The 3 racers who went against Mew's crew seemed decent. Vinny noted that Minhu's squad was disbanded, ending their run. Meanwhile, TJ reflected on the bitter fact that Mew wasn't even part of his crew anymore. Vinny seemed pretty curious about Mew, pointing out he still looked incredibly sharp. Still, Vinny warned that the guy had better watch that injured leg of his. Out of nowhere, Vinny dropped a bomb. He was quitting his own crew. TJ was left completely stunned, utterly unable to process Vinny's real motives. A few pedal strokes later, Mew and June pulled up right in front of Mew's place. Mew was completely devastated over losing everything. Getting kicked out of his own crew felt like a nightmare, making him wish things went. If it weren't for my leg. Suddenly his parents arrive and their eyes lock. Minhu greets him, but his father immediately snaps, asking what he's doing outside. The furious father demands to know what's going on, since he was supposed to be at home studying. His stepmother tries to play peacemaker, saying it's just a teenage phase. But then she notices a cut on Minhu's face. How did he get hurt? She reaches out gently to inspect the wound, asking with concern if Minhu fell off his bike. Get away, Minhu snaps at his stepmother to take her hands off him right now. She stands there absolutely shocked, completely taken back by such a sudden harsh reaction. Honestly, doing that right in front of his angry father is a massive mistake. His father punches him hard, calling him a useless thug. He barks that the eldest son needs to show some respect, but Minu doesn't care. Minu accuses his stepmother of being a gold digger who took his mother's place. Losing his mind completely, the father accuses him of wasting all their family money. He even throws the ridiculously expensive bicycle he bought for Minu right back in his face. Screaming, his father demands that he hand over his wallet and credit cards. Defiance, Minu hurls the wallet to the dirty ground, refusing to touch his father's cash. And right here, his father completely boils over with absolute rage. "Get out of my sight," he kicks Minu out of the house into the cold night. The bitter fight leaves his twin sister utterly heartbroken. She retreats. She quietly whispers that this is all her fault. Meanwhile, in another part of town. Elsewhere in a quiet alley, Jay stands by a vending machine. Sitting on his bike, Minu laments having no money, no home, and absolutely nowhere to go. He got kicked off his crew, and now his own family has abandoned him. To make things even worse, he watches a perfectly happy family walking past his bench. Their laughter reminds Minu of the sweet times with his mother and sisters. Memories of his beloved late mother are the only comfort he has left during these dark days. He and his twin sister used to be inseparable, bonded by a sacred promise. Swearing to always protect his family, he remembers when he was still a happy, kind kid. But those warm days are gone. Now he can only sit there and weep. Tears stream endlessly down his face, leaving him in a completely broken and helpless state. Then the metallic clatter of a vending machine breaks the heavy silence. Looking up through his blurry tears, Minu sees another teenager staring straight at him. The guy mockingly asks if he is crying like a baby over losing a simple match. Not crying, Minu snaps back that he is fine, but the guy doubts it. With a skeptical shrug, the stranger turns his back on him and starts to walk away. Desperate, Minu calls out to stop him, needing a massive favor. The guy turns back, asking what he wants, while Minu desperately tries to force a smile. Hoping for a miracle, Minu asks if he can crash at his place tonight. Without a single word, the guy just starts walking away again. Minu follows him, begging for just one single night since he has no money or home. The guy coldly replies that Minu's personal sob story is absolutely none of his business. To Minu, this guy is a heartless demon, but he keeps begging anyway. Jay sighs, explaining he needs to get back to studying and suggests asking another friend. He suggests Minu call another friend, but Minu shakes his head. Minu whispers that there is absolutely nobody else left for him to ask. He was not the right person to help either. In that moment, Minu realized. They were only schoolmates and nothing more. Faced with this cold reality, Minu understood he was completely alone. He had no team and no real home left. Anyone who ever approached him was only interested in his family status and wealth. No one around him genuinely cared. Everyone was just using him. Their only interest was his father's massive wealth. They just wanted to get close. Knowing he was a rich businessman's son, Minu started wearing a mask too. He hid behind fake smiles with everyone. His father was always surrounded by lies and fake friends. This was the only reality Minu had ever known. Can you blame him? Minu started hiding his true self under countless masks. Since childhood, whenever those masks came off, he was always left completely alone. But as a kid, Minu escaped that loneliness by getting a bicycle. That bike became his ultimate escape, and his passion for riding grew fast. Eventually, he formed his own crew of people who simply loved to ride. They called their crew Team Zephyrus, a squad born from the streets. But now Minu lost even his team. Then, the heavy rain started falling. Out of the corner of his eye, Minu spotted a small cat caught in the storm. It was shivering violently from the cold. Looking closer, Minu realized something. He had definitely seen this cat before. Was this the same one that caused his crash? For a split second, anger flared inside him, but that resentment quickly washed away. He saw its badly injured paw, and pure sympathy completely took over. Blaming the animal would not change anything, so he shared some of his food. Minhu watched as the gentle creature ate directly from his open hand. He realized the poor thing could not run away, even if it wanted to. Gently picking up the soaking wet animal, Minhu held it close in his arms. He realized this creature was just as alone as him. Nearby, a boy walked by. Carrying an umbrella, the kid stopped when he found Minhu standing in the rain. He recognized Minhu as one of those weird guys hanging out with his brother. But he had absolutely no idea what Minhu was doing outside their house. Minhu recognized him too, asking if he was that same little pest. But the boy completely ignored him, keeping his eyes on the shivering cat. The wet cat was clearly his priority. Once inside, the boy kept thinking. Staring at the pouring rain, he felt bad and grabbed a spare umbrella. He went back outside to help, but saw his older brother already arriving. Jay was carrying the cat inside. Surprised, his little brother asked about it. Jay explained that the poor animal was freezing, so he brought it in. Hearing this, Minhu actually started to feel some respect for the guy. He thought Jay showed genuine concern, but Jay quickly set him straight. Jay muttered that he only brought Minhu inside because he had the cat. Minhu sighed, realizing it was a mistake to expect any real warmth here. But Jay ignored his glare, focusing on drying off the wet feline. After getting some food for the cat, Jay turned his attention back to Minhu. Standing face to face, Minhu quietly promised to leave the moment the storm cleared. Before he could say anything else, a dry towel was thrown over his head. Jay lazily pointed toward the bathroom, telling him to get cleaned up first. Mew seemed pretty surprised and appreciated the kind gesture, even if he hid it well. Jay quickly added that this was a one-time thing, so Mew shouldn't expect more. Still, Jay's younger brother found it pretty weird that they were hosting Mew. He didn't want him sleeping there, even though Mew insisted he wasn't actually homeless. After a quick shower, Mew felt completely refreshed and brand new. Nothing beats a hot wash and a warm home. Mew suddenly announced his hunger. He casually raids the fridge for food. Right then, loud footsteps echo nearby. A woman's voice calls out, asking about some random bike parked outside. Stepping into the kitchen, Jay's mother is shocked to find Mew raiding her fridge. Totally startled, Mew quickly gives her a polite greeting to ease the tension. The woman instantly recognizes him as the son of a very prominent local figure. She quickly whips up some food and tells Mew to make himself completely at home. Mew is absolutely thrilled because sweet and spicy fried chicken is his absolute favorite. Impressed, Jay's mother asks how on earth he managed to make such a high-status friend. Jay bluntly replies they aren't friends, but his little brother chimes in. He reminds their mother how she always says that friends are totally useless. Embarrassed, Jay's mother throws a chicken drumstick right at the kid to quiet him. She tells him to eat fast and study since big exams are coming up. Suddenly, she hears a soft meow and spots a cat sitting on the stairs. Already in trouble, Jay's younger brother notices Mew's nervous reaction. He points a finger, claiming it is entirely Mew's fault for bringing the cat. Dumping all the blame on Mew, the kid runs over to hug the stray cat. The little guy has already named the cat Jack, much to their surprise. Trying to stay calm, Jay's mother smiles and suggests returning the animal later. She gently tells him they should probably give it back once their guest leaves. But the boy, face covered in sauce, just holds the cat tighter and ignores her. He pretends to listen, but then she notices something quite strange. Seeing the fresh bruises on Jay and Mew, she asks if they got into a fight. To dodge the question, Jay quickly chugs his soda, staying completely silent. The pressure falls on Mew, who stammers that they had some trouble. She immediately blows a fuse, threatening to go after whoever did this. No one gets to lay a finger on a prestigious kid like Mew. She demands to know their school, but Mew lies and claims he has no clue. He says they wore casual clothes, trying his best to calm her down. Jay quietly stands up, thanks his mom for dinner, and heads upstairs. Mew and the mother watch him leave. She sighs that his grades are slipping. She warns that if he keeps falling behind, there will be consequences. Specifically, she is going to take away his precious bike for good. Jay just mutters that he understands before heading to bed. Mew follows him. Finding Jay busy on the computer, Mew asks what he is working on. Jay merely glances over, completely ignoring him. Before long, Mew lies down. He sighs, feeling stuffed and cozy on what has to be the softest bed ever. Almost asleep, Mew mutters that Jay must have a pretty tough life too. Having a mother constantly pressuring you to be number one is no joke. Yet Mew envies him for having an actual caring mother. Hearing this, Jay turns off. Jay clicked off the light and kicked hard, trying to shove the intruder out of his bed, but Minhu stubbornly insisted he could not sleep without a mattress, even suggesting they just share it. Annoyed, Jay made a spot on the floor for himself. Then, surprisingly, Jay started up a conversation, asking when Minhu first got into cycling. Minhu replied that it was way back in his childhood, when he saw a kid riding in the park and thought it looked like pure fun. Minhu figured that kid must be an absolute pro by now. That was when Minhu had the bright idea of starting a cycling team together. Jay just told him to stop spouting nonsense and sleep because he was being a total bother. Minhu thought Jay was always so incredibly negative, telling him to brighten up for once. Minhu also mentioned he would be crashing there for a few more days, immediately catching Jay's attention. Jay bolted upright, demanding to know what he meant. Minhu smoothly explained that Jay's mom said he could stay as long as he liked. This did not sit well with Jay. Facing the corner, Minhu sent his sister a quick message, asking her to bring some clothes, reassuring her that he was fine at Jay's house for the night. She just asked for his address to deliver the clothes. Soon, exhaustion won. Minhu drifted right off. By morning, a rich, savory smell from the kitchen woke him up. Still half asleep, Minhu stumbled out to investigate, rubbing his blurry eyes. He thought he saw an old lady cooking, but once awake, he realized it was Jay wearing a cute cat apron. Jay explained his mom left early for work. Minhu lost it. The sight was absolutely hilarious. He teased, asking if this was cosplay, laughing too hard to even take a photo for his social media. His hands shook too much to focus the camera. Minhu then asked about Jay's younger brother, who was outside playing with Jack. Minhu found it strange the kid woke up early to play with the cat. Seeing the gourmet dish, Minhu assumed it was a special breakfast in his honor. He was already grabbing a spoon when he realized the food was not for him. Minhu asked where it was going, and Jay replied it was for the cat. Starving, Minhu complained that Jay should not do that, give his breakfast to a cat, but Jay just told him to make his own breakfast. Meanwhile, across town, Sunny High's principal was getting ready for another workday. His phone rang, leaving him wondering who could be calling so early, but hearing his granddaughter Shelley's voice made him incredibly proud. Shelley happily announced she was returning to Korea to see him. Smiling warmly, the principal told her he absolutely could not wait. Shelley promised to call the second she landed. This beautiful, blonde girl with a bike in her room clearly shared that same passion for cycling. Early the next morning, Minhu was busy tuning his bike, checking over every single detail. He was quite surprised when his sister, Yuna, showed up carrying the fresh clothes he had requested the night before. Yuna asked what he was up to, and Minhu replied he was just wiping down his bike since it got soaked yesterday. Yuna, who had a long-standing annoyance with her brother's cycling obsession, tossed him the clean clothes and demanded he stop being so stubborn and come home already. She promised she would care for their father, but Minhu still did not look convinced. Slightly annoyed, Yuna commented how strange it was that he preferred crashing at Jay's place instead. He never expected Jay to be so nice. Mew explained that despite Jay being stubborn, things were going great. Yuna offered him a ride in the family car to school, but Mew, proud as ever, refused. He said he would ride his bike and suggested that Yuna should start cycling too. Ignoring his advice, Yuna said she would see him later and warned him not to be late. She got in the car and drove off to school, leaving her brother behind standing with his bike. As Mew waved goodbye, Kay, who had been standing there all along, asked if Yuna was his girlfriend. Only then did Mew actually notice him. Annoyed, Mew replied that he would never have such an ugly girlfriend, explaining she was actually his sister. Then he asked how long Kay had been standing there. Kay, completely ignoring the question, started talking to Jack the cat, remarking that it was pretty obvious. A delinquent crashing at someone else's house could never have a girlfriend. Mew silently thought that if Kay were his brother, he would have taught him a lesson. By now, smiling, Kay said goodbye to the cat, saying he had to head to school and asking Jack to watch the house. Mew just stood there with the cat. Meanwhile, Jay, who was getting ready for school, ignored Mew, but glanced over when called. Mew asked him if he was planning to ride his bike to school today. Jay muttered that he wasn't sure and asked why. Mew admitted he was out of bus money and would ride his bike, suggesting they go together for some company. Jay just stared at him without a word. Soon, they were both on the path. Unused to the bike path, Mew complained about how terribly designed it was, packed with obstacles like random trees and fire extinguishers. Jay, on the other hand, was completely indifferent since he rode here all the time. Mew then suggested they take the calmer route through the park. He even proposed ditching class entirely to keep riding, but Jay gave him a look that said absolutely not. Mew then noticed Jay wasn't wearing a helmet and offered to buy him one shortly after he remembered he had zero money and quickly dropped the subject. Jay, used to his friend's endless rambling, told him to shut up and keep pedaling. Mew proposed a race to school, but Jay declined, saying he preferred to pace himself. Back at school, it's the usual loud, chaotic morning atmosphere. Inside, Mia seemed pretty impressed by whatever Yuna was telling her. Mia commented that she never imagined seeing Mew and Jay getting along so well. Yuna agreed, noting it seemed like they only recently started liking each other. Mia found that phrasing hilarious and joked that she should probably reword that before others got the wrong idea. Yuna then reminded Mia about their upcoming student council meeting this weekend, which they planned to hold at a cafe. Mia loved the plan, but wondered if Jay would actually let them meet outside school. Yuna explained that since most of the department heads were girls, they could easily pressure Jay into agreeing. Smiling, Mia commented that this would be her perfect chance for a date with her beloved Jay. Yuna made it clear she was helping, but Mia needed to make sure they ended up alone. Flustered, Mia stammered that she did not need that much help. Overhearing their conversation, Dom Kang suggested he might just show up and asked if he could join. Annoyed, Yuna reminded him he was not even on the council, asking what he even planned to do there. Dom Kang offered to be her. Dom Kang begs to be her assistant, but Yuna says no way. Still, he insists, inviting her to catch a zombie movie after their meeting. Watching from afar, Mia thinks they actually look pretty good together. However, Yuna makes it clear she really hates that kind of horror stuff. Right then, Mia glances out the window and spots Jay and Mew arriving on their bikes. Mia mentions to Yuna how she really wants to buy a bike too, especially since the weather has been so nice lately. Yuna suggests that once Mia finally gets it, she should totally get Jay to teach her how to ride. Dom Kang immediately butts in again, proudly declaring that he is going to buy a bike too, but Yuna just says she honestly doesn't care. Right then, Minu walks into the school with his bike, immediately catching the eye of all the girls as usual. Over in the corner, a couple of boys are totally glued to a magazine filled with pretty models. Suddenly, the class leader cuts in to ruin their fun. She wants things organized, the guys totally helpless. That is when they notice Mew walking right into the classroom with. He parks his bike in the corner. Naturally, one of the guys asks why he even brought the thing inside. Mew just replies by asking if they have any clue. It's insane value. Leaving it outside is out of the question. When the guy asks for the price, the sheer number Mew drops completely blows his mind. It is an absurd price. He jokes the bike must be made of solid gold. Still, the guy really wants to try riding it, but the moment he notices the incredibly high seat, he immediately backs down in pure frustration. Over in Jay's class, Yuna drops by to discuss the student council meeting, letting him know that everyone wants to hold it at a cafe, wanting his opinion. Jay clearly does not care for the idea, but Yuna decides that is how it is going to be anyway, leaving while humming a little tune. Later, Yuna tells Mia that everything went exactly as telling her she needs to dress up nice to make a solid impression. Just picturing it makes Mia blush. Dressing up is definitely not her thing. Back home, Mia faces a massive crisis. What outfit is even right for something as special as this cafe meeting, with clothes thrown all over the bed? She tries on option after option in the mirror, totally unable to decide. Her hair and makeup are another disaster. Suddenly, her panic is cut short by the loud ring of her phone. It is Yuna calling to check up and see if she is ready, letting her know she is already driving over. Panicking, Mia lies and says she will be ready in 5 minutes, with absolutely zero time left. With no time, she grabs a simple dress and throws it on, doing her absolute best with only seconds to spare. Meanwhile, over at Jay's place, the house is silent. Minu is bored, complaining about having no money and no fun to do on a weekend. Looking outside, he watches happy couples walk past alongside Kay, who seems totally obsessed with stray cats. Seeing Jay getting ready to go out, Minu asks where he is heading. Jay explains he has a student council meeting to attend. Surprised, Mew asks why on earth they are meeting on a weekend, immediately begging to tag along, but Jay refuses. He prefers to go alone. Disappointed, Mew holds the door open, promising to keep an eye on things and asking Jay to bring back some ice cream. Jay just stares at him and says absolutely nothing. Over at the cafe, the atmosphere is pretty relaxed, with just a few customers scattered around. One couple sitting nearby seems to be. Everyone else seemed to be having fun, but over at Yuna's table, things felt pretty awkward. Yuna spots Dom Kang nearby, loudly hyping up the cafe's bagels. Right then, Mia arrives looking quite embarrassed for being late. She had no idea everyone was already waiting, looking completely polished. The new look totally throws Dom Kang off, and he does not even recognize her. Mia gets super self-conscious until she tells him to just listen to her voice. Yuna squeals seeing Mia without her glasses, telling her to ditch them forever. Mia blushes and thanks her, explaining it is just a temporary style choice. Suddenly, one of the guys nearby starts flirting with his girlfriend while staring at Mia. He casually remarks about how absolutely stunning Mia looks without her glasses. Naturally, his girlfriend snaps at him, calling him a total pig. Watching them, Dom Kang asks Yuna if they should bicker like that too, but she ignores him. Meanwhile, over at another table, Vinny is looking incredibly annoyed. His friends point out a group nearby that keeps staring at them judgmentally. Vinny can hear those jerks whispering about his looks, especially his eyes. They are mocking his mismatched left eye, assuming it is some weird cosplay contact. Fed up with the cheap remarks, Vinny decides to handle this his own way. He steps over, grabs one of their coffee cups, and takes a fake sip. He loudly complains that the coffee tastes sour, immediately making a massive scene. Now that everyone is watching, Vinny asks if his eye color is really that bothersome. He sarcastically tells them to just pluck it out to check. The guys at the table freeze, completely taken aback by his intense attitude. They ask him to stop, but Vinny just smiles and kicks their table. It sends drinks flying, knocking one guy completely off his chair onto the floor. The sudden crash immediately catches the attention of Dom Kang and his group. Vinny keeps pressing them, planting his foot on the fallen guy's chest. He asks if he wants more, then spills hot coffee on another guy. He claims it was just an accident, of course. Nearby, a girl begs for help. But nobody wants to step into what looks like a violent, unpredictable fight. Seeing the hot coffee spill, Dom Kang finally steps in and grabs Vinny's hand. Vinny does not appreciate the grab, giving him an irritated look. The air instantly turns icy. You can practically feel the tension. Dom Kang tries to keep things peaceful, keeping his voice low and calm. But Vinny ignored him, pouring the rest of the hot drink over the guy. The jerk who was mocking him just a second ago is completely terrified. He is down on the floor, desperately crawling away like a whipped dog. He literally starts screaming for someone to call the police on this psycho. Ignoring the cries, Vinny casually reaches out and flicks Dom Kang's cap. He asks what his problem is. Dom Kang just stares back, dead silent. He does not strike back, but his cold, heavy gaze never leaves Vinny's face. Suddenly, Yuna calls out his name, breaking the heavy tension in the air. He looks over to see what she wants. Yuna tells him to put his fists down. She begs him not to cause a scene. Dom Kang just sighs, fixing his hair. But he keeps his eyes locked onto Vinny, his look completely changing. Meanwhile, Vinny's friend steps in quickly, desperate to keep things from getting any worse. Vinny's friend advised him to get out of there before things got completely out of hand. Vinny, ever the oddball, stuck his tongue out at Dom Kang before walking away, he muttered that they would finish their little chat. In private, hearing those cheap shots, Dom Kang bent down and picked up his cap, sliding it right back onto his head before heading over to Yuna. He swore he had not caused any trouble. Yuna, looking completely pleased, hid it well and simply told him he did a good job. Meanwhile, elegant high heels clicked sharply as a sleek suitcase stood out in the crowd. Men around her could not help but stare. This breathtaking blonde was drawing eyes everywhere she walked. Even women stopped in their tracks and couples started bickering as boyfriends threw shameless glances her way. Right then, one overly confident guy who thought he was a total heartbreaker made his move, fixing his hair and smoothing his clothes. He muttered to his buddy about how gorgeous this foreign girl was, proudly bragging that his basic French and pure charisma would easily win her over. Walking up, he told his skeptical friend not to worry at all. His plan was 99% charm and 1% language. His friend knew he desperately needed a reality check because she was way out of his league. The blonde girl noticed his lingering stares and sighed at how predictable and annoying men could be. When he stepped up trying to drop some French, she calmly suggested they just speak in Korean. Though he seemed weird, she still answered his standard questions about her origins. He quickly turned on the charm, saying he was just drinking coffee when he saw a literal angel and had to follow. Then came the big question. Did she have a boyfriend? Slipping his phone over, he asked for her digits so they could keep in touch. She took the device and tapped something in. While a nearby cyclist rode past, she seemed to be typing on her own phone too. Right then, two guys on a scooter pulled up. The driver wore an Iron Man mask while his partner pointed at their prey ahead, the gorgeous blonde holding that expensive-looking suitcase. They roared toward her while she still held the flirtatious guy's phone. Handing it back with zero interest, she promised to text him later. He grinned, thinking she was just playing hard to get. He was absolutely certain he had won, but when he checked the number she actually wrote down, he realized she gave him a fake. Just then, the two scooter thieves whipped past and ripped the bag right out of her hands. Securing their prize, they sped off instantly. Shocked and angry, she tried to give chase, but it was completely hopeless. Meanwhile, the hooded cyclist speeding by caught the whole crime. He was in a rush, but he clearly knew exactly where he was headed. Seeing the whole robbery go down, Jay decided to shadow the thieves. She rode after him at full speed to see what he would do. Up ahead, construction workers were taking a smoking break, but they were suddenly startled as Jay flew past and grabbed a worker's safety helmet on the fly. He was finally protected. meaning he could pedal fast without risking his life. Over at the cafe, the staff was busy clearing tables for the next customers. Honestly, they wished people would just drink their coffee quietly instead of making messes. And just leave. Nearby, some patrons watched them sweep, annoyed by the clutter. Our main guy, Dom Kang, looked pretty pleased with himself. He loved his girlfriend's attention, thinking about what he almost did. If things hadn't settled down, he would have handled it himself. Old memories of his school days, as the legendary bloody prey, were ready to wake up. Dom Kang claims he never wanted a real fight, just to scare them a bit. Even so, the girls were absolutely loving his tough guy act. But Yuna wasn't buying it. She told him to stop acting so tough. That wasn't real bravery. Honestly, he just hadn't thought it through. But then Mia chimed in with a question she had been holding onto forever. She asked if he was finally ready to confess his feelings. Smiling awkwardly, she quickly teased him, saying she actually wanted to know about something else. Specifically, why does he always wear a band-aid on his upper lip? Not finding it funny, he pointed to his lip and asked if she meant this. Yuna chimed in, saying someone was bound to bring it up eventually. Mia was dying of curiosity, wondering what secret he was hiding under that tape. She promised to keep it a secret. He agreed to show her under one condition. No telling anyone else. With a dramatic sigh, he slowly peeled off the bandage. The girls lined in, completely shocked by what they were seeing. All this time, he was just hiding a mustache, a real mustache on a high schooler. That is pretty rare, but one of the boys nearby thought it looked incredibly cool. He even started imagining himself with full facial hair, thinking it would make him look manly. Mia was actually pretty impressed that a high school kid could grow such a mustache. Meanwhile, the other guy started cooking up wild theories about his secret. He wondered if Dom Kang used some secret miracle gel to boost his hair growth. You know, to look extra manly, he literally begged Dom Kang to share the secret. Just let him try it once, but Dom Kang claimed it was a black market exclusive. The girls were just confused. Why grow a mustache only to hide it behind tape? Seriously, why go through all that trouble just to keep it covered up? He explained that he needed it for his part-time job to look older and serious. If any of his teachers found out, they would make him shave it instantly. So the Band-Aid was the perfect way to keep his secret hidden at school. Mia finally understood why he was always sleeping or looking completely exhausted in class. Working part-time was really draining. Still, another girl wondered what his dad did for work. Did his family really need the money? Dom Kang casually replied that his dad did paperwork. He managed administrative duties for some organization, but to outsiders, not quite. He looked way more like a ruthless mafia don leading a massive syndicate. He was always dealing with other dangerous criminals who were just as terrifying as him. Whenever they met up, the sheer tension in the room was absolutely insane. But today, his terrifying father was finally returning to Korea. The curious girl asked if his dad was just a regular office worker or something, or if he was secretly running something way more dangerous in the shadows. He just bursts out laughing, desperately trying to change the awkward mood and the conversation. Mia quickly grabs her ticket, eager to escape. She happily gets up, announcing she is going to get some more coffee. Right then, a mysterious guy starts taking pictures of her. She looks absolutely stunning, completely unaware of the attention. Meanwhile, the student council president pedals his bike at maximum speed. Wearing a borrowed helmet, Jay chases down the thieves. The thugs on the motorcycle think they are totally in the clear. But they glance back and realize someone is pursuing them. They can hardly believe a cyclist actually has the guts to chase them. Checking the rear-view mirror, they see him closing in fast. There is no way he can catch up with just a bicycle. No way, he will have to be a lot smarter than that. But Jay just pedals harder, expertly weaving between cars. His eyes stay locked on them during this insane chase. He keeps pursuing the thieves who stole the blonde woman's purse. No obstacle can stop him, he leaps walls easily. Dodging cars is nothing, taking a shortcut is his best bet. Cutting them off is not going to be a problem. And suddenly, he is actually riding on top of a wall. Right below, some kids are kicking a ball around. Suddenly, a stray soccer ball flies high, heading straight for Jay. The kids watch in absolute shock, totally amazed by him. They cannot believe anyone could actually ride a bike on a wall. They all agree that riding a bicycle is way cooler than soccer. Jay keeps pedaling on the wall, tracking his targets. The driver admits the crazy kid freaked him out. But he laughs it off until things get much worse. The thug freezes as he looks up at the sky. Jay launches off the wall, soaring through the air like a rocket. He flies right over some kids eating ice cream. The thieves are completely terrified as they watch this kid fly through the air. And honestly, you cannot blame them for staring in awe. Seeing some pull off a daring stunt like this is legendary. Suddenly, Jay hurls his entire bicycle straight at the speeding motorcycle. The kids cheer as the heavy bike crashes directly into the thieves. He lands hard on some cardboard boxes along with the criminals. The thieves quickly scramble away, leaving the stolen bag behind. Moments later, Chell pulls up in her white car. She asks if he is okay, noticing a fresh cut on his forehead. But it is hard to tell under his borrowed helmet. Chell begs to take him to the hospital, but he just hands over the bag. Jay picks up his wrecked bike, carrying it over his shoulder. The frame is completely bent, making it impossible to ride anymore. Chell keeps protesting, deeply worried, but he silently walks away. Jay thanked him for getting the bag back before pulling out his phone to call. He needed to let them know he was running late after getting into an accident. Over on the other end, Yuna immediately panics and asks if he is doing okay. A curious Dom Kang wants details, so Yuna explains that their friend was just knocked off his bike and will not be making it to their big meeting. Hearing this, Mia perks up immediately, asking if Jay is actually hurt or not. Yuna reassures her that he sounded mostly fine, though he was keeping things quiet. Naturally, someone grumbles that the guy is probably just making up a lazy excuse. But Yuna defends him. Jay is definitely not the type to skip out on them. With that settled, the group decides to hang out a bit longer before splitting. Disappointment washes right over Mia. She excuses herself to use the restroom. Staring blankly into the mirror, she cannot help but feel a sudden wave of emptiness. Still, her mind keeps drifting back to Jay, hoping he is truly all right. Walking back out, a strange guy stops her and introduces himself as CJ Kim. He claims he is from SC Magazine and has been watching her from afar. Apparently, she is exactly the kind of fresh face their team is looking for. He slides a business card into her hand, telling her to call him anytime. Mia stands there completely stunned, staring down at the little card in surprise. Soon Mia, Yuna, and Dom Kang wave goodbye to the rest of the crew. They promise to catch up at school, leaving the trio to walk home together. It is such a shame Jay missed out, especially since Mia dressed up. She looks incredibly pretty, and Yuna gently nudges her to keep her chin up. Next time for sure, but Yuna is dying to know about that bathroom guy. Mia quickly pulls out the card, explaining the whole scouting situation to them. Yuna gasps, noting that the magazine is actually a pretty big deal. Maybe it is legit. Meanwhile, over at Jay's place, Mew is chilling. He is watching a music show, while his cat happily plays with a ball nearby. Clutching a pillow, Mew sighs. Being left home alone is honestly incredibly boring. Meanwhile, Jay is hauling his busted bicycle down the street, looking for repairs. He wanders into a specialty bike shop, politely calling out to find anyone. Standing before him is a friendly girl sporting a military cap and cool tattoos. Wearing a white tank top, she welcomes him. Jay explains his broken ride. She instantly recognizes him from the race and asks if he remembers her too. She watched his footage, but it is clear he has absolutely no clue. Jay basically has a superpower for completely forgetting faces. Classic Jay. He just wants the bike fixed, but she insists on giving him first aid. He has a bloody cut on his forehead, which he tries to ignore. He wants her to focus on the bike repairs instead of mothering him. He knows she is a mechanic, so she should get to work already. Once she finally finishes cleaning his cut, she takes a look at the wheels. It is completely trashed. The front wheel and fork are totally useless now. Luckily, the frame survived his wild crash while chasing down those thieving jerks. Now this mechanic is incredibly attractive, with tattoos drawing the eye. Yet Jay is completely oblivious, his gaze drifting away from her instead. He is staring at a photo of his uncle on the wall, sparking memories. Those old memories drifted back to the final stage of the Tour de France. It was nearing its end, and Jay remembered watching that epic race on his screen. For the first time in history, a Korean cyclist was actually leading, but then came the English athlete surging forward from behind. Mark quickly overtook the Korean cyclist. They both sprinted furiously toward the finish line in a desperate final dash. And that was when Jay recalled his uncle's words, urging him to chase his dreams. Back then, young Jay wanted to be a doctor, but his uncle disagreed. He insisted a dream should belong to him, not his parents. The boy argued back, saying he was just a normal student whose only job in life was studying. He did it to please his parents, but his uncle disagreed. Studying was extremely important, sure, but it was far too boring to be his dream. Finding what you love and living your own life was what mattered. That made Jay desperately long to find his passion, so he asked his uncle if he had a dream. Smiling, his uncle said he wanted to reach the very top. He knew it seemed absolutely impossible, but his desire was simply too strong to ignore. He truly believed that with enough hard work, anything could happen. And on that historic day, his amazing uncle became the first Korean cyclist in history ever to conquer that final stage. Jay still remembered watching the screen when his parents interrupted, telling him it was late and time for bed. He shut down the computer with a completely peaceful mind, knowing deep in his heart that his uncle had actually done it. Nothing in this world was impossible. The sweet memories of his youth faded as Harry suddenly spoke up, asking Jay if he knew the writer. He was not very well known back home in Korea. Even though cycling is massive there, his uncle was a true champion, dominating several major Asian competitions. Harry added that he had conquered the Tour de France's final stage, the ultimate dream of man. Harry then looked at Jay, asking if he knew that legendary writer. Jay replied that man Joe was his uncle. Harry had already suspected it because she recognized the very bike Jay used to ride on the street. She had also spotted the name carefully inscribed right there on the clean bike frame. She pointed to the inscription. It was named Man Joe. Jay immediately asked her how she could possibly know his uncle. Harry explained she admired Man Joe so much she actually ran a dedicated fan club. But now she had to figure out how to repair the bike. The entire front end needed to be replaced, so she suggested Jay come back in 2 days. He hated leaving his precious bike behind, but he still ultimately agreed. Before he left, Harry asked him to wait and handed him a flyer. She suggested he might want to join the local street leg, since they were currently organizing a long-distance championship. The first-place winner would receive a cash prize of 1,000,000 won and global entry. Jay refused instantly, but Harry told him to think about it. She said he could call her if he changed his mind, but Jay insisted he had big exams next month and had no time. Harry simply smiled, telling him to at least return to pick up the bike and also maybe go see a doctor. Jay left the shop, wandering down the street. Reaching inside his pocket, Jay suddenly realized his wallet was missing. Meanwhile, at home, feeling bored, Jay just listened to music. He was completely oblivious. Shelley's grandfather arrived. He was absolutely overjoyed to see her. He warmly embraced her. He missed her like crazy. Rummaging through Jay's lost wallet, Shelley spotted his high school ID. She immediately made a decision. She had to enroll there. She planned to study there for a while, staying close. Later at school, Minhu was totally shocked. Jay's face was completely bruised. Minhu immediately asked him about it, wondering if it was a car accident. Jay briefly muttered that he did. Minhu sighed, wondering why he gets hurt daily. He also asked about his bike, and Jay replied that it was at the shop. That's when Minhu noticed. The bike was completely wrecked too. Minhu felt incredibly bummed, knowing they wouldn't be riding together for a while. He felt so frustrated, he had to ride to school alone. Meanwhile, Jay's younger brother slept peacefully on the living room carpet. Snuggled next to Jack the cat, the next day, classmates mobbed Jay. Worriedly asking if he was okay, Dom Kang was already there. Asking Jay if he felt all right, he was acting like a close buddy. Explaining how worried everyone had been at the cafe yesterday, Dom kept going. Making it clear that Minhu was especially concerned. Standing nearby, Minhu heard this and quickly slapped his hand over Dom's loud mouth, stopping him instantly. Yuna demanded the truth. She wanted to know what happened. But Jay hated the drama. He simply told them to drop it. He said it was nothing, urging them to go back to studying. Just then, the teacher walked in. He ordered everyone to sit down. He demanded silence. A major announcement was coming. He announced that starting today, they would be hosting a brand new exchange student. He told Shelley to come inside, no need to be shy. And get this, the entire room fell dead silent the moment she walked in. She walked in with confidence, leaving everyone completely speechless. The teacher introduced Shelley, explaining she had just arrived from England. She would only be studying in Korea for one single semester. The teacher asked the class to welcome her and be friendly. He invited Shelley to say a few words to the class. She introduced herself as Shelley, mentioning her love for traveling and riding bikes. The guys went absolutely wild. To them, she was a literal angel. Totally disgusted by the guy's pathetic behavior, Yuna rolled her eyes. Dom admitted the new girl was pretty, but in his eyes. She didn't compare to Yuna, but Jay paid absolutely zero attention. He ignored all the noise. Shelley was busy looking for someone. Then she spotted her grandfather, the school director, crouching outside. He was spying on them, checking if his granddaughter was doing okay. But seeing the guys drooling, he realized the room was full of wolves. They were all staring at his precious Shelley. Suddenly, a janitor caught him. Back inside, the teacher scanned the room, looking for an empty desk. The teacher tries to seat Shelley, but she confidently insists on finding her own spot. She completely ignores her target, heading straight for the perfect seat. But since he has not noticed her, Shelley kisses his cheek. Everyone is completely speechless, while Mia looks on in absolute shock and heartbreak. The boys are seriously impressed that the new girl is already making major moves. But the director is absolutely furious, seeing his own granddaughter act so boldly. He fumes that Jay better not kiss her back, forcing the janitor to step in. The janitor drags him away, while the teacher tries to restore some order. She scolds them for such chaotic behavior, leaving Jay completely startled by the kiss. He quickly wipes his face and demands to know what she is doing. Shelley smiles, explaining she never got to thank him for saving her bag earlier. She hands back the wallet he dropped, saying she kept it safe for him. After returning it, she locks eyes with the boy sitting right next to Jay. She tells him she wants his spot and asks him to kindly move. Totally intimidated, the poor guy quickly agrees, saying it would be rude to refuse. As he packs up, Yuna realizes Jay missed yesterday's big meeting because of her. Mia is absolutely burning with jealousy. That public kiss was definitely a bit much. Later on, June is checking out a race flyer when Minhu suddenly dashes past. June calls after him, wanting to know why he is in such a massive rush. Minhu shouts back that they will talk later since a hot new exchange student just arrived. June wants to share something huge with his friend, but he won't listen. Instead, the entire school is gossiping about how the class nerd scored a kiss. A kiss from a gorgeous blonde angel, though June still wants to discuss the race. He decides to let it go for now, planning to mention later that Jay is entering. Since Jay is entering their favorite race, Minu arrives at class breathless. He searches everywhere for the lucky nerd who kissed the stunning blonde. But Jay's desk is already swarmed by guys demanding to know his secret. They are dying to know where he met her and how they are connected. Meanwhile, the girls stare at Shelley's hair, whispering about how she knows Jay. Looking over, Shelley sees Minu waving enthusiastically and introducing himself from class 3. She politely replies that it is a pleasure to meet him as well. Minu then walks over to Jay, clapping a firm hand on his shoulder. He says they need to talk, but Jay tells him to come back later. Jay claims he is too busy, but Minu grabs his arm, refusing to leave. He begs him to stop lying and just give him 1 single minute. As Shelley watches them, Minu demands to know how long they have been together. He wants to know why Jay moved in on her so fast. Jay instantly replies that they are not together, but Minu thinks he is joking. Minu demands the truth, so Jay explains that she just kissed him randomly. Minu finds that highly suspicious, wondering why she would kiss him without any reason. He asks why Jay never mentioned her, especially since they are living together. Hearing this, the students nearby immediately jump to some wild conclusions. They assume Jay betrayed Minu, forcing him to quickly try and save face. Trying to save face, he insists everyone has it all wrong. Meanwhile, a student from the school newspaper snaps a photo to capture the drama. Just then, a guy with bright orange hair walks by and sniffs Shelley's blonde locks. Shelley instantly slaps him across the face to back him off. Mia, who's been watching this whole crazy scene, stands up in absolute disbelief. She's completely overwhelmed and upset, with the classroom chatter only making it worse. It triggers painful memories of when she was bullied at school by her classmates, especially the ones she thought were her friends. One awful day went way too far, as they tossed her books on the floor and shattered her glasses. They were expensive, and she could not see anything without them. That was the exact moment Jay approached her and asked about her prescription. Hearing her answer, he realized they shared the exact same prescription. Without hesitation, he handed over a spare pair of glasses he always kept on him, since he constantly broke his own, and just like that, they met in middle school. She quickly learned that Jay was awkward around others and barely showed any emotion. But deep down, he was kinder than anyone. That was when she fell for him. Even so, opening up and expressing her feelings was incredibly hard for her. Years of relentless bullying had completely crushed her self-esteem, making her hold back and slowly resent her own interactions with others. But now, as class lets out, Jay quietly starts walking down the hall. Suddenly, a very familiar, annoying voice calls out to stop him in his tracks. It is Minu waving a flyer from June, calling Jay a total nerd. While jokingly asking about his teeth, the flyer advertises a huge biking race, boasting an insane prize of 100 million won, which Minu desperately needs. Since he is currently flat broke, he tries to persuade Jay to team up. He hypes up the easy cash they could win, but Jay remains completely unmoved. He bluntly says he is not interested and tells Minu to leave him alone. But Minu keeps pushing, dreaming about getting on television and becoming famous. Shelley watches from afar, observing the two as Minu tries his best to convince him. Just as Shelley is about to shout and ask to tag along with Jay, her grandfather suddenly appears out of nowhere and demands to know where she is going. She tries to explain she is going out with a friend, but he grabs her hood. He tells her that her friend can wait, dragging her away with him. He demands to know what she is plotting and forces her home. Shelley is super annoyed because she wanted to follow Jay, but she is powerless. Her grandfather drags her away. Later, Jay gets home, showers, and sits down to study. But Minu is relentless, showing up right at his house with that same flyer. He suggests that if Jay fixes his bike, they can enter the race together. But Jay is completely over it. Meanwhile, the television is broadcasting an interview. It is the famous cyclist Sang-ho Choi, set to compete in an upcoming Street League Cycling Festival. Minwoo already knows all about Sang-ho Choi's immense fame, recognizing him as the top cyclist in Korea who will be competing. When asked about the event, Sang-ho Choi boldly declares on the screen that he will personally race the final stretch against whichever amateur team wins. Meanwhile, Jae and Jun are arguing over the remote, while Minwoo wants to watch. The news then mentions Ma-han-jo, a legendary Asian cycling hero, who tragically passed away 2 years ago following a fatal, devastating accident. Right after a doping test, Sang-ho Choi publicly grieved Ma-han-jo, adding a harsh truth. If Ma-han-jo were still alive today, his career would be over anyway because of doping. Watching this, Jay remembered his uncle's warm, gentle smile and felt a heavy wave of sadness. Sancho's words cut deep. Jay hated the idea of using performance enhancers to cheat. He sincerely hoped other professional riders would never choose that dishonorable, cheating path. Back at home, Minwoo and Jay were actively bickering over the TV remote. Suddenly, Jay stood straight up and announced he was entering the grand tournament. Minwoo froze, completely baffled. Later that night, the trio met up in a quiet square. Jun wanted to know if Jay was truly committing to their cycling crew. Jay confirmed it. He could not ignore what Sang-ho Choi said about his uncle. No way, Minwoo kept pressing, curious about what sparked this sudden change of heart. Jay's anger flared as he remembered the broadcast, but he kept his secrets hidden. Minwoo teased him, asking if the massive prize pool or global fame motivated him. But for Jay, only one thing mattered: clearing his uncle Ma-han-jo's name. He had to prove to Sang-ho Choi that his uncle was never a dirty doper. Jun smiled, deciding that whatever the reason, having Jay on board was a massive win. But they still had a pretty big problem staring them right in the face. Now they had a serious problem to solve, and trust me, it wasn't an easy one. They still lacked enough registered riders to even qualify as a proper competitive squad. Minwoo worried that his former teammates might sign up and become their bitter rivals. Jun told him to leave the past behind and focus on building their future. Since they were starting fresh, Minwoo was officially put in charge of their name. Jun asked for brainstorms. Jay stayed quiet while Minwoo got lost in thought. Suddenly, Minwoo blurted out a name that he honestly believed was sheer genius. He suggested Team Super Cool, but Jun immediately shot it down for being childish. They tossed around ideas like Giant Team, Tiger Team, or even Legendary Team. Realizing they were getting absolutely nowhere, Jun suggested sleeping on it for now. Heading home, Jay felt cursed to have to team up with someone so clueless. Meanwhile, Minwoo was still absolutely obsessed with making his favorite Team Super Cool name happen. The next morning back at school, the English lecture went completely over their heads. Minwoo sat at his desk, desperately trying to sketch out a better logo. He was struggling hard, facing a creative block unlike anything he had ever known. When the class bell rang, the boys huddled up to brainstorm once more. Minwoo proudly showed off the sketch he worked on late the night before. He insisted they simply had no choice but to use his favorite name. Jay lost all patience, flatly refusing to ride under such an embarrassing label. Jay muttered that literally any option was better than that childish trash. Minwoo got defensive, snapping because Jay was complaining without offering any real alternatives of his own. Right on cue, Shell quietly sneaked up behind the ever-indifferent Jay. True to his usual cold self, Jay completely ignored her cheerful presence. But she overheard their plans and immediately begged to join their brand new team. Jun stepped in, warning the blonde girl that street races got pretty dangerous. Minwoo, however, immediately welcomed her, telling the beautiful girl that she was more than welcome. He figured all she needed to do was know how to ride a bike. He promised to handle absolutely everything else, which left Jay looking pretty annoyed. The new girl confidently says she can ride well, it completely crushes Mia. Ever since she saw that newcomer kissing Jay, her heart has been in pieces. Yuna tries to cheer her up. Why is she so downcast lately? Mia lies, claiming she is just sick, anything to hide the real pain. Suddenly, Dom Kang barges into their conversation, always loud, always energetic. He insists some heavy hip-hop beats will cure her blues. Shelley joins the team name debate, prompting Minhu to pitch a ridiculous idea. Calling themselves the goddess and her minions, June just rolls his eyes. Seriously, his friend acts like a total fool whenever girls are around. Dom Kang overhears and feels betrayed. Why do they keep leaving him out? He genuinely thought they were brothers, especially after that night in his room. He thought he and Jay were locked in forever. Mia just watches silently. Seeing Jay surrounded by the pretty newcomer and her friends only deepens her sorrow. She stands frozen, watching the girl fit in effortlessly, something Mia always wanted. Yuna quietly observes her friend. It is obvious she is hurting. Meanwhile, Dom Kang throws a tantrum. He wants on the team, badly. Shelley just stares blankly at Minhu. Now, the five of them gather to brainstorm. But first, Minhu wants to know why Dom Kang is still hanging around. Dom Kang proudly declares he is officially joining their new bike squad. Minhu rolls his eyes and asks the obvious question, does he even own a bike? Dom Kang grins, explaining he is looking for a cheap second-hand one online. Minhu tells him they will talk once he actually gets some wheels. Since they go to the same school, they try naming the team after it. But it sounds too cheesy. Shelley points out they are terrible at this. Meanwhile, Shelley's grandfather keeps a sharp, protective eye on her. He hates seeing her with 4 teenage boys, but Minhu keeps pushing. Pushing for super cool, the grandfather, the school principal, is annoyed. He hates her around boys, but seeing his granddaughter smile softens his heart. He realizes it has been ages since he saw her looking this happy. While he sips his juice, a tiny creature buzzes right past Dom Kang. It annoys both him and Minhu, who initially mistake the creature for a bug. Someone guesses it is a hummingbird, but June shuts it down immediately. He explains there are absolutely no hummingbirds in Korea. None. It is likely a hawk moth, a mimic insect that fools almost everyone. A real hummingbird flaps its wings faster than any other bird on Earth. At least 90 times per second, true masters of flight. Minhu is completely blown away by that stat, even while fighting Dom Kang. He guards his smoothie, his mind suddenly racing with a wild idea. What if a human could pedal 90 times a second? You would easily outrun a motorcycle. He pictures himself doing it. Minhu's intense daydreaming catches the attention of June, Jay, and Shelley. Dom Kang asks what a hummingbird has to do with cycling. Meanwhile, posters for the grand race are popping up all over town, instantly catching the eyes of some incredibly dangerous local riders, along with clueless amateurs who actually think they can win. With a bike named Sina-chan, word of this soon reached Taijay, who found the whole situation pretty amusing. Back in the quiet classroom, Mia and Jay cleaned up what remained on the blackboard. Mia suddenly broke the silence, asking Jay if those rumors about him dating the exchange student were actually true. Jay clearly did not appreciate the prying, dryly asking her what on earth she was talking about. Blushing slightly, Mia explained that the whole school was gossiping about them being an official couple. She was just a little curious, that is all. Jay flatly stated they were not dating. He wanted to know exactly who was spreading such ridiculous nonsense around. Mia smiled, admitting it was a huge relief to hear that, especially since they were starting a crew. Jay clarified that it was a proper cycling team. To Mia, that sounded incredibly cool and exciting. Curious, she asked what they were calling themselves. Jay revealed they went with the name Hummingbird. Mia found the name absolutely adorable. She wondered if they had already designed a team logo yet. If not, she eagerly offered to design one herself, hoping she could help them out. Since she planned to pursue design after graduating, she wanted to create something special for them. Jay shrugged and said if she really wanted to give it a shot, he would let her try. Blushing with a bright smile, Mia said she would absolutely love to do it. Jay simply told her to hurry up because he was ready to head out. As they walked, Mia mentioned she was buying a bike soon and asked if he would teach her to ride. Jay casually agreed, promising to show her the ropes whenever he found some spare time. His answer made her day. Leaving school behind, Jay headed straight to the local bike shop. He needed to pick up his ride after repairs. Harry noted that he was quite late. Meanwhile, over at Dom Kang's place, the big guy called out to announce his return. His father immediately invited him over to share a drink with the old man, but Dom declined. He claimed he was exhausted and had a work shift starting very soon. His father frowned. He grumbled that Dom could at least look happy to see him, otherwise he might get hurt. Then he slyly asked if Dom was running around dating multiple girls at school. Dom immediately denied it. His dad laughed, saying that back in his day, he actually enjoyed life. One of his loyal henchmen finally told the boss to stop bothering his son and let him eat. Taking advantage of the brief pause, Dom spoke up and asked his father for a new bicycle. He claimed he wanted it for exercise. His father found this sudden interest in fitness pretty bizarre. He asked his men how much a decent bicycle even goes for these days. One thug piped up, claiming that 50,000 won should easily get him something decent. Nodding, the father pulled out the bills and handed them over, telling him to buy a good one. Dom stared at the small stack, seriously wondering if his father was playing some kind of joke. Where on earth could he find a bike that cheap? It was completely ridiculous. 50,000 won would barely buy a single high-quality wheel. Searching online, he spotted a promising listing for 100,000 won. The lack of photos seemed pretty sketchy, but he felt he had to take the gamble. His dad's henchmen gathered around, suggesting he message the seller to negotiate. Dom nervously typed out a message, shamelessly asking for a 50% discount. But wait, could this be a scam? His henchmen assured him nobody would dare rip him off. If the seller tried to run with his cash, they promised to handle the situation personally. Amazingly, the seller replied almost instantly, agreeing to let it go for 50,000 won. Dom felt incredibly lucky. Now he actually had a shot at joining the team. Meanwhile, the seller smugly assumed he was just tricking some gullible school kid with no money. Little did he know, he just targeted a dangerous mobster's son. Pocketing the cash from the fool who just sent it, the scammer felt completely confident that the kid would never report him to the police over a petty bike scam. Meanwhile, Harry at the bike shop was thrilled that Jay finally decided to enter the race with those other guys, wishing them the absolute best. She wanted them to make great memories together, warning him to handle the bike gently. The chain was a complete mess after his uncle handed it down to him, so keeping it in top shape was crucial. Harry mentioned it had taken forever to source all the custom parts, especially since the 7 front wheels Jay previously trashed were completely done for. She explained that the carbon wheels were feather light, giving him a massive speed advantage on the road. But she warned that a single crack would instantly shatter the entire setup, meaning Jay could not afford to ride recklessly. It was definitely not indestructible. When Jay asked about the total bill, Harry just smiled. She explained those 7 wheels were just sitting in a dusty corner so he could have them for free. As for repairs, Jay could pay her back after winning the race. She really wanted them in first, especially to clear his uncle's name after that tragic doping scandal. With that, Harry showed she knew exactly what was driving him to compete. Meanwhile, Vinny's buddy told him to stop living like a total slob. School was already over, night had fallen, and he was still passed out in bed. Cracking one eye open, Vinny asked for the time. His buddy said it was past 8 p.m., and since he was still breathing, he should get up and move, since Vinny had completely skipped school and ignored his calls. His worried friend had dropped by, only to find him sleeping. He then handed Vinny a note left by his mother earlier that morning. Along with the note, she had left a bill for 10,000 won, and Vinny wondered how to spend it. If he bought a pack of cigarettes or something to eat, the cash would be completely gone. His friend then mentioned that the teacher threatened expulsion if Vinny skipped even one more class. Vinny felt furious about having to show up the next morning, but he honestly just felt like giving up entirely. The moment Vinny arrived at school, he met the incredibly harsh disciplinary officer guarding the front gate. This man was notoriously brutal. To the kids, his ruthless style actually made them want to skip school even more. Glaring at Vinny, the officer called the kids absolute rebels, claiming it was because of punks like Vinny that the school was in such a horrible state. He warned that a single slip-up now would get him kicked out. Muttering about Vinny's bright hair color, the officer treated him like some kind of disease, wondering how a guy like Vinny even got enrolled here. He sneered that Vinny would never graduate anyway, and that the school was just wasting resources. He openly admitted he would love to expel him on the spot, but right then, Vinny's top classmate stepped forward. Standing tall in front of the teacher, this star student completely shifted the vibe. The friend gave a cold, hard stare to the furious man and calmly walked right past him, as if the angry officer did not even exist. Walking up to Vinny, he quietly asked if he was all right. Pleased, nobody dared to make eye contact with Vinny, not one person. Everyone knew the consequences. He had been like this since early childhood. To protect himself, reaching the door, Vinny suddenly stopped to yell at the idiot staring from the window. Vinny demanded the guy to come out right now, while he was still being nice, at least. The boy quickly apologized, begging that it was just an accident. But Vinny grabbed a heavy chair to teach him a lesson anyway. An apology meant absolutely nothing to him. A lesson had to be taught. So others wouldn't dare. Elsewhere, the guys were still staring at the gorgeous blonde exchange student on the phone. She was happily begging her dad to ship her favorite bicycle over. While she chatted, Dom Kang was dealing with a much worse call. He was frantically trying to reach the shady guy who had sold him that bike. But there was absolutely no answer. Dom called again and again. Absolutely nothing. The guy was totally ghosting all of his messages. Watching him, Yuna noticed his face grow incredibly serious as he stared. But Mia was totally distracted, focusing completely on sketching a hummingbird. Yuna leaned over to ask what she was working on so intensely. Mia explained she was putting a lot of effort into a design. Yuna asked if it was some kind of logo, and Mia proudly confirmed it. Yuna then mentioned that her brother and Jay had finished eating and rushed out, wondering if Mia had any idea where they went. Mia shook her head, but mentioned they talked about an application. Apparently, they were signing up for some upcoming competition. Mia had no clue. But she hoped that living together would help him improve his skills. Mia beamed. Her perfect sketch was finally complete. All that was left was to show the boys and get their feedback. Meanwhile, Minu and Jay walked out of the post office after mailing it. Jay grumbled, asking if he really needed to tag along for this errand. Minu replied that since they were teammates, they had to stick together. He asked if Jay would rather just slack off while he did everything. Jay just rolled his eyes, telling Minu to shut up and keep walking. "We are wasting time." Minu complained that he was starving. He wanted to grab some food, but Jay said he'd eat alone later. Minu sighed, realizing there was absolutely no middle ground with this guy. He was always so blunt, but then Minu spotted something bizarre across the street. And trust me, a fully floral pink bike is hard to miss. The eccentric rider called the bike Sina, whispering for her to wait patiently. He locked it up carefully to make sure nobody would steal his beloved ride. He literally showered the frame with kisses before promising to return quickly. Just looking at this display gave Minu a serious case of the chills. So weird, Minu and Jay hurried back since they were on break. But as they walked off, the man stopped in his tracks. He heard Minu insult his precious bike and demanded to know why. He marched over, asking how Minu dared to disrespect his ride in such a. He snapped that Mew was a worthless human who had no right naming a high-end superbike. Both Jay and Mew stared at him, completely baffled by his bizarre behavior. They figured he had to be some obsessive otaku. Meanwhile, the cyclist was absolutely furious. He screamed at Mew to immediately take back whatever insult he just hurled at his precious ride. Spitting mad, he grabbed Mew by the collar, shaking him while rambling in bizarre jargon. He used weird terms only hardcore geeks would recognize. Mew desperately looked at Jay for backup. But Jay just calmly told him to apologize so they could get out of there. Left with no choice, Mew quickly backtracked, mumbling that he only said it because the bike looked cool. The cyclist warned Mew never to stare at her that way again, since he was just a total nobody. The guy then leaned over to pick up his competition application form. He proudly pointed out his team name, Manga Team. Mew suddenly realized this weird otaku was actually entering the Street League too. The cyclist bragged that they could call his beloved bike Senachin, since that was her name. Just like her owner, this machine was apparently highly exotic and deserved a special title. The two boys could not fathom how someone this incredibly bizarre actually existed. They pedaled hard to get back to school before their short break ended. On the way, they still could not get over how weird that guy was. Jay deadpanned that the bike was probably the guy's girlfriend, which explained why Mew triggered him. Mew stared at Jay, unable to tell if his stone-faced friend was joking or being dead serious. Suddenly, the crazy cyclist zoomed past them, yelling that they were just slow schoolboys. He told them to enjoy staring at the charming backside of his bike. Mew had no idea who this guy was or why he acted so smug. Especially since his bike looked so basic. Meanwhile, Dom Kang was dealing with some major drama. He called his father's gang henchmen and explained that some online seller had scammed him. This simply could not stand. A powerful gang could not face such embarrassment. Especially since Dom Kang himself was the one who suggested buying online. One henchman told Dom Kang to finish class peacefully, promising they would handle everything. Right after, the henchman called up another gang associate. He explained that some idiot had dared to steal money from their young master. Using the provided phone number and bank account, they would hunt the scammer down. He ordered the associate to pass the details to their hacker to pinpoint the target. The associate confirmed that locating the scammer would be an absolute breeze. Their hackers had just recently breached one of the biggest credit card databases in Korea. He ordered that the moment they secured an address, they should gather some heavy backup. They needed to bring some muscle and tools because it was time to teach this scammer a lesson. Dom Kang was deeply frustrated with himself for falling for a cheap online scam. All he wanted now was to find this thief and look him dead in the eye. The mere thought of it made his expression turn incredibly dark and terrifying. So when a classmate suddenly tapped him on the shoulder, Dom Kang whipped around with pure rage. The poor kid nearly jumped out of his skin, stammering that Yuna wanted to talk to him. Even though he was still angry, hearing Yuna's name instantly softened his mood. No matter how hard he tried to look tough, he just could not resist her. One look from Yuna, and he was practically running over to see what she needed. Dom Kang politely asked how he could help, and Yuna asked why he looked so down. She offered him a piece of gum to cheer him up, telling him to turn that frown upside down. He was stressed and needed a quick sugar rush to lift his spirits. For Dom Kang, that gum was absolutely legendary. It felt like a direct blessing from his goddess, Yuna. Dom Kang whined to Yuna, saying he felt crushed because she refused to give him a kiss, annoyed. By his complaining, Yuna stroked his cheek, then punched him in the face. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a smug scammer was cruising around on a bicycle, wearing a helmet and snacking on sweets. He bought all of this using the stolen money, taken from some gullible fool who fell for his fake cheap bike trick. Now, the thief was feasting on snacks bought with the 50,000 won from that clueless buyer. Rolling back to his room, he felt absolutely ecstatic about his easy haul. He planned to sneak in quietly so his angry landlord would not ask for rent. The guy assumed he could dodge his payments forever, but right then, his instincts kicked in. His apartment door was standing wide open, completely forced off its lock. Someone broke inside. Thinking he was robbed, the scammer rushed through the door. But instead of a burglar, he saw several scary men in black suits waiting inside. They carried heavy weapons, and none of them looked friendly. After all, the thief was just a college student who loved cycling. He had no idea why they welcomed him. With such terrifying energy, shaking, he dropped his bag of cheap snacks on the floor, stuttering to ask who they were and what they wanted. It was late at night. The intruders cornered him, demanding to know why he dared cheat their young boss. Now the miserable thief was tied tightly to a wooden chair, completely helpless. He was gagged and still wearing his bike helmet. One of the mob boss's men towered over him in pure rage, pointing out that he had scammed the wrong family. The gangster warned the kid that if he wanted to play con artist, he had to be prepared to face the music. Dom Kang's father's bodyguard stepped forward. He complained about having to waste his precious time in a dump like this. The guard warned the bound thief that their young master was coming. And once he arrived, things were going to get incredibly messy. It was over. His cheap 50,000 won con had just bought him a one-way ticket to pain. While the suited thugs crowded around the trembling captive, the front door swung open. The feared young master, Dom Kang, finally stepped inside, greeted with deep bows. Dom Kang looked absolutely furious. He had spent his entire day hunting down the jerk who stole his cash. The tied-up culprit stared up at the high school kid, unable to understand why these terrifying adults were taking orders from some teenager. The scammer began shaking violently as Dom Kang reached deep into his pocket. What weapon was he pulling out? Honestly, the tension was through the roof. But Dom Kang was actually searching for his most prized treasure, a little sweet. To cheer him up after a rough day, the captive cyclist squeezed his eyes shut. Waiting for the worst, suddenly, the young boss pulled his hand out. Instead of a gun or a switchblade, he held up a tiny caramel candy. The absolute shift in the young boss's mood left the criminal completely dumbfounded. His tough mafia glare melted into pure joy. Honestly, it was hilarious. The thief was so caught off guard by the sight that he stopped crying. A bodyguard awkwardly asked what they should do with the prisoner, but Dom ignored him. He just kept chewing, totally lost in the sweet taste of Yuna's gift. Suddenly, the sugar rush ended. He turned back to the captive, eyes cold again, and demanded to know where the sold bike was. A henchman in the room pointed, and Dom Kang saw it was basically brand new, approaching the ride. Dom Kang cooed at it, admitting he had no clue what was happening. But he was thrilled because it was flawless and cost next to nothing. 50,000 won. Right then, the scammer, who was the actual owner of the bike, wished he could scream, but he was tied up and completely unable to speak. He felt pure agony watching someone else claim his precious ride, Dom. Meanwhile, the bodyguard of Dom Kang's father assumed something wonderful must have happened today. Because the young boss was in such a fantastic mood, Dom Kang, thrilled with getting the bike for dirt cheap, happily pointed out to the bound seller that since he was quitting riding anyway, he would not be needing his helmet anymore. Delight. With both, Dom Kang declared his business done and told the man he could leave. The bodyguard felt a bit disappointed in his young master. Meanwhile, the crying scammer wept silently, not from fear, but from absolute heartbreak. Over losing his beloved bike, the gangster lad told him he was extremely lucky, then ordered his boys to cut him loose. A bit later, the man was found planted upright in a soft patch of dirt. He was not alone. A few stray cats surrounded him, eager to play. Elsewhere, Minu wanted to use Jay's computer for a bit, but Jay refused since he had online classes. Just then, Minu caught a strange noise coming from the window and asked if Jay heard it too. Sniffle-nosed and sick with a cold, Jay muttered that it was probably just a stray cat, not buying that explanation at all. Minu slid the window open to investigate. He spotted Dom Kang looking ecstatic with his new bicycle, proudly showing it off. Minu was instantly hyped for his buddy's new ride. Since it involved bikes, Jay's interest was naturally piqued, and he rushed over to the window to get a closer look. Minutes later, the three of them were gathered outside Jay's house checking it out. Minu quickly grabbed the chance to take it for a spin, but while riding, Minu felt a sense of familiarity, like he had seen this exact bike somewhere on the street before. Turning to Dom Kang, Minu asked if it was pricey and how much it had cost. Dom Kang bragged. He proudly declared he got it down to 50,000. One on a second-hand site. Honestly, who wouldn't be suspicious? Dom Kang asked if he overpaid. Minu and Jay just stared at the bike. At the bike again, realizing it was in absolutely mint condition. They asked Dom Kang what he did to the owner to get that price. He simply repeated the seller's excuse about quitting cycling and letting it go cheap. Jay decided it was time to leave Minu and Dom Kang outside. He needed to go back inside to study since his school grades had dropped significantly, but Dom Kang, who had no idea how to ride his new purchase, asked for tips. Minu suggested he try practicing skidding, since that is essential for riding a fixed-gear bike, but seeing Dom Kang's blank face, Minu realized his buddy had zero idea what skidding even meant. Failing the hype, Minu eagerly explained that it is a fixie trick where you lock the rear wheel using raw leg power. Seeing that his explanation fell flat, Minu hopped on the bike to show him exactly how it is done. All he had to do was watch and copy. Minu executed the move so Dom Kang could fully get it. Dom assumed he had it down by watching and decided to try, but right away, the poor guy simply couldn't get his feet set properly on those stupid pedals. Still, Dom Kang refused to back down, determined to somehow make things work. He spent a few minutes struggling just to slide his foot into place to at least try pedaling, finally wobbling forward, but after only a few clumsy strokes, Dom Kang was exhausted. Then came his next brilliant idea of flying downhill on a bike with no brakes. Minu yelled for him to try skidding like he showed him earlier. Dom Kang noticed he was totally losing control of the bike. Desperate to stop, he frantically tried pedaling backwards as hard as he possibly could. He screamed out that it was not working at all. The pedals were spinning way too fast to stop, sending Dom Kang screaming down the hill. Completely out of control, his legs were now pedaling on their own. After the crash, Minu realized his friend was hopeless at sports. He figured it was probably best to hit up a local shop tomorrow and fix his broken brakes. The next day at Sunny High, students get ready for another school day. For a long day of classes, a crowd of girls gathers complaining about their looks while applying makeup to hide imperfections. Meanwhile, some guys prefer a wilder lifestyle, spending their time skating around campus. Elsewhere, a group of girls gossips about how they wish Minu would finally notice them. Just then, a skateboarder speeds right past them. The sudden wind lifts their skirts. The speeding boy feels incredibly smug after catching a quick glimpse of their underwear, noting a pink and a white pair. Needless to say, the three girls are absolutely furious with his trashy stunt. Their anger boils over when they realize the draft was no accident. That orange-haired punk was intentionally trying to spy on them. He gets a massive thrill from doing this, laughing aloud. He notes that most wear white, which seems to be the trend, but then he spots his primary target, Chell, the stunning blonde exchange student. She is chatting happily, radiating her usual sweet and friendly energy. This immediately sparks a massive interest in the orange-haired skater. Desperate to impress, he starts pulling off wild tricks and seems unusually fired up. He stops to quickly adjust his messy hair, since it is his pride and joy for attracting girls. Feeling confident, he decides it is time to approach the beautiful blonde who caught his eye. Unfortunately, his plans are cut short. He is cornered by some angry girls who are totally fed up with his obnoxious stunts on campus. They know his skirt-lifting trick was no accident. One of the girls begins aggressively massaging his ribs with heavy punches. The rest join in to happily stomp him into the pavement. Elsewhere on campus, the crowd surrounding Michelle is busy admiring the new logo Mia designed. She had been asked to create this design specifically to impress Jay. Holding up her sketchbook, Mia shows it off to get their feedback. Minu, being his usual charming self, grabs Mia's hands and calls her work a masterpiece, claiming it will lead them straight to victory. That was all he needed. Yuna, knowing her brother all too well, told Mew to stop using that as an excuse to hold Mia's hands. Mew got upset, claiming Yuna was making him look like some kind of creep. Chell stepped in closer to inspect Mia's logo, commenting on how well the design was actually drawn. She asked to take a closer look at it, but Mia, still harboring a grudge against Chell for kissing Jay, flat out refused to let her get anywhere near the team's awesome new design. Sensing the cold shoulder and absolute lack of cooperation, Chell demanded to know what Mia's problem was. Dead silence. Even the usually clueless Minnow, who normally misses everything, noticed. He could tell that these two girls were ready to tear each other apart. But Mew did not care. He was just thrilled they finally had a perfect logo. That awkward spark shifted the mood. Minnow turned to Jay and asked if he liked the look. Since their quiet star writer had not reacted at all, they waited, coldly and calmly. Without looking, Jay simply gave a very quiet nod of approval. Mia beamed with joy and told him how happy she was, since she made it just for him. Just then, Yuna looked over and spotted Dom Kang stumbling down the hallway, completely disoriented. She could only wonder what kind of ridiculous trouble he had gotten into this time. Dom Kang was dragging his feet, holding onto desks and chairs just to keep moving. Seeing him struggle like that, the entire group wanted to know what happened. Had he gotten into another street brawl, or did someone actually manage to beat him up? Putting on a weary but forced grin, Dom Kang explained that he was just completely exhausted. He had stayed up all night practicing his skids on the asphalt, pushing himself too hard. Now he was dead set on buying brakes because riding brakeless was turning out to be terrifying. Mew, immediately worried about the safety of the expensive ride, asked where he parked it. Did he actually remember to lock it up, or was it just sitting out there? Wincing in pain but still smiling, Dom Kang assured him that nobody would ever steal it. You will not believe his security system. Outside, the bike was chained to a giant Rottweiler. The beast was drawing a crowd, turning heads of everyone walking down the street. People stopped to admire the sleek design, loving how the bold colors blended together. One step closer, big mistake, they got a warning. The massive Rottweiler bared its teeth, ready to tear them to absolute shreds. Terrified, onlookers backed away, wondering what crazy person would tie a beast to a bicycle. Back inside, the mastermind behind this ridiculous stunt was proudly sitting in class. Dom Kang's bizarre antics were starting to make even Jay feel a bit uneasy. His logic made zero sense. Jay simply could not comprehend it. Even for a guy who usually keeps his cool, this was just too weird. Mia's, however, did not care about the dog or the bike at all. She asked Jay if he was free this weekend to teach her how to ride. Yuna jumped in to back her up, making sure Jay had no way to back out. She reminded him that Mia had worked tirelessly researching to design their awesome team logo. So as a fair thank you, he absolutely had to teach her how to ride this weekend. Shrugging indifferently, Jay calmly agreed that he would keep his promise. Mia was absolutely thrilled to hear that she had successfully scored a weekend date. But the blonde exchange student, Chell, immediately stepped in to rain on her parade. She told Mia to hold on because she was not letting her borrow Jay. Mia snapped back, saying Chell did not own him, but Chell did not care one bit. She had weekend plans too. Suddenly, Dom Kang shouted out. He wanted to practice, so he decided to join, Mew refusing to leave Jay. With the girls, claimed he would train with them all weekend. Meanwhile, Yuna just watched, thinking the boys were totally brainless. They did not notice Mia was only setting this up to get some alone time with Jay. Mew glanced at June and thought about inviting him, but assumed he was too busy studying for his college entrance exams. In reality, June was glued to his phone, analyzing their potential rivals. In competitive sports, staying ahead of the game is not just about raw skill, but knowing your opponents. June spotted one standout rider cruising on a 5-speed bike. Right now, this guy was training in their very city, preparing for the same championship they were entering. This beast was hitting speeds between 89 and 92 kilometers per hour. But during training, he sometimes pushed all the way to 97, since his sessions involved steep downhill runs. A chase car followed him, filming everything. In real time, these intense sessions were live streamed for everyone to see and admire his incredible prowess. In his latest run, the rider reached a mind-blowing 102 kilometers per hour, leaving June deeply worried. He had never heard of anyone going that fast. Meanwhile, at the bike shop, Dom Kang wanted to avoid any more close calls with his bike and brought it in. For new brakes, Harry finished the tune-up, installing front brakes to keep him safe. Dom Kang was absolutely thrilled that he could now ride with total confidence. Jay had recommended this place to Dom Kang, but neither realized the famous girl from the webcast was actually the manager. Mew asked the gorgeous mechanic if she was indeed the online streamer who also ran this entire shop. She smiled, explaining the streams were just for fun and her real job was working here at her father's shop. Harry then asked the guys about their upcoming race, wondering why they were not training. Mew, completely confident in his friend's skills, declared that with Jay on their side, victory was a lock, but June quickly cut in, having monitored the other competitors and checking their official ranks. He warned that if they did not take this seriously, they would not even survive the preliminary rounds of the race. June's serious mood caused some tension, and Mew asked if he hung out here often. June immediately confirmed that he did, explaining that today he had just come in for routine maintenance and to swap out a worn tire. Dom Kang was hyped to see his friends gathering here, feeling like this was becoming their little clubhouse. Still, Mew felt worried about June wasting time tracking down other riders, especially with crucial exams right around the corner. But June insisted on sharing his research on their rivals and their abilities. June pulled up a video of a cyclist easily hitting over 100 kilometers per hour. Everyone froze in shock. In fact, it seemed completely impossible for a normal cyclist to pull off those numbers. Harry, the resident expert and shop manager, stepped in to explain that reaching that velocity on a 5-1 gear was down to drafting behind a car, acting as a shield against the wind. In those conditions, any pro could hit 100 kilometers per hour. She added that the current world record for cycling was over 200 kilometers per hour. Mew mumbled that there was simply no limit of human potential. He then asked June who this beast actually was. After looking it up, June revealed they call him Monster 13. Apparently, he had been a legendary high school football player back in America. As quarterback, wearing number 13, he single-handedly dominated the field as an absolute beast for his uncanny ability to carry the entire squad alone. But then, disaster struck. He got injured during a game and could no longer run like before due to relentless knee pain. He walked away from football, abandoning his American dream, and returned to Korea. He spent his days on a bicycle, desperately trying to rehabilitate his damaged knee. The endless pedaling became his intense form of physical therapy. That obsession quickly rebuilt him into a literal beast on wheels. Now he's put together the dreaded monster team, set to dominate the upcoming competition. Honestly, he is easily the top favorite to win. June points out that casual street riders and track pros use entirely different muscle groups and physical builds. He warns them that while these professional athletes are custom-built for high-speed track riding, allowing them to spin a heavy 5.1 gear with ease, thinking they could beat Monster 13 by just talking a big game was pure delusion. Mew, clearly frustrated, mutters there is no way they stand a chance in the race against a freak of nature like him, Dom. Kang stays quiet since he literally just bought his first ride, seeing their crushing disappointment at being totally outclassed. Harry offers a solution, the opportunity to test out training rollers. She tells them to follow her so she can reveal the training area and explain the setup, once Harry leads them. Inside the specialized indoor training room, the guys are completely blown away. Having never witnessed such a professional setup before, she explains that her team gathers here to train. These roller stands are perfect for mastering pedaling rhythm and tracking their current form. She adds that practicing here makes finding the optimal riding posture incredibly easy for any rider. Dom Kang, despite having zero experience, finds it totally mesmerizing and wants to be the absolute first to try it, but oh boy, the second he sets his bike onto the rolling drums, he instantly begins to struggle. That sudden reality check immediately frustrates him. Once he finally manages to start spinning, it is incredibly obvious how much raw effort every basic stroke takes. He sways wildly from left to right, making a loud, awful racket that shows he has absolutely zero control over the machine. He never expected riding on a roller to be this ridiculously complicated, let alone require so much core strength. At one point, Dom Kang gasps out, "Why is this so hard?" while shaking violently from side to side. The shop manager patiently explains that the severe wobbling happens because he is gripping the handlebars too tightly and tensing his shoulders. She advises him to just relax, which will make stabilizing the bike way easier. Despite her helpful advice, he is still fighting for his life. It sounds simple, but actually doing it is a whole different story. As Dom Kang keeps whining, he spots Jay right next to him, who just set up his bike and is smoothly gliding along like a seasoned pro. Dom Kang asks how on earth he is pulling this off. Jay replies that his secret comes from endless childhood training with his uncle. Mew chimes in, pointing out that Jay has always been incredibly good at everything he did. It seemed completely unfair. June just smiled, adding that Jay was incredibly talented, the true ace of their team. Meanwhile, the mechanic noticed Jay kept his upper body completely still, while his pedaling stayed perfectly smooth. The guy was in peak condition. Sure, anyone can push pedals, but engaging every muscle to ride this naturally took an incredible amount of practice. Watching him closely, Harry realized Jay really was the nephew of the legendary Mahanjo, born with a natural gift for cycling. The beautiful mechanic then mentioned she had to go help another customer, but urged them to keep training on the stationary rollers whenever possible. Once they felt steady enough, they could take it out onto the streets. After countless attempts, Dom Kang felt totally dead, exhausted, frustrated. This was way tougher than he ever imagined. Mew was also exhausted and soaked in sweat. Though he did not struggle quite as much as Dom, he still gassed out fast. Seeing Jay's effortless flow, Mew had figured riding was just about sitting down and pedaling. But now he saw the real depth of it. He did not even know how to execute a skid yet, leaving him with so much to learn. Despite being completely spent, Dom Kang was already plotting his next ride for tomorrow. Knowing Dom wanted to impress Yuna, Mew asked what he saw in her, since Mew did not think she was pretty, comparing her to an ugly cow. Dom Kang did not take that insult lightly, snapping back that his beloved looked nothing like a cow. Mew just shook his head, wondering why only weirdos liked his sister. It made no sense, but this sudden twist shook Dom Kang too. His core, he never guessed his dream girl was Mew's sister. Mew found his shock incredibly weird, considering they were identical twins. Yet, up until this very moment, Dom had not noticed. Dom suddenly got super defensive, flat out refusing to believe there had to be a mistake. How could they be related when they looked absolutely nothing alike? Sure, maybe a tiny bit, but barely anything. Mew asked if Dom really had no clue about the connection between him and Yuna before this, right then, Dom started acting completely bizarre. He lunged right in front of Mew, startling him as Mew demanded to know his deal. Out of nowhere, Dom stood tall. Brother, Mew felt deeply. Cringe-ready and annoyed by his buddy's sheer shamelessness, this whole scene was so ridiculous that even the other two training stopped to watch. Even Jay, who usually never looks up from his books, paused both his pedaling and studying to watch. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Mia was drying her hair after a fresh shower. And feeling completely relaxed, spotting her bike, she recalled Jay's promise to teach her how to ride. It felt like the perfect chance to get closer, and she desperately hoped she would do well tomorrow, wanting to make him proud. Highly anticipated day finally arrived. She made her way to the park, where Jay was set to give her that cycling lesson. Sitting together on a park bench were Mia and Shelley, looking like they were waiting for someone. Dom Kang walked over, holding a bag of yogurts, trying to be a sweet guy. He offered them their pick of flavors. One grabbed strawberry while the other went classic. Shelley, being her usual rebellious self, just stared at the yogurt lid and threw it right onto the ground without licking it. Dom King got totally triggered since he licks the lid himself. He says she shouldn't throw it away. Not without licking it first. Doesn't she know basic yogurt etiquette? Shelley completely ignores him. No way is she licking that lid. Dom Kang, though, he cleans his with absolute passion. Apparently, you have to do this before tossing the cup. It gleams and Shelley looks completely and utterly disgusted. He just grumbles back that literally everyone eats it like this. Luckily, Mia agrees. She eats it the exact same way. Just then, Yuna finally arrives with the boys in tow. Her annoying brother immediately walks past her and ruins her hair as usual. Classic. Jay is in his own world, and Yuna barely pays him any mind. Mew arrives next, instantly cracking jokes with the waiting girls. Mia stands up and waves, desperately hoping Jay notices. Shelley wants some attention too, but she refuses to get up. Then Dom Kang jumps up with a giant bow to greet them. He is dying to show Yuna his new cycling tricks. He spent the whole night practicing just to show off for her. But the young woman just tells him to stop acting cool. Expectations, 0, but he is not giving up yet. Time for a crazy stunt to win her heart. At first, he actually looks like a total pro. He goes all out, showing off a special skid. Too bad he only succeeds in finding a new way to hurt himself. The skid fails, and his terrible form leads to disaster. Ouch, we can definitely all feel the intense pain of that crash. He rolls around on the ground like a literal toddler. Yuna laughs, calling it a fantastic bicycle comedy show. His hard practice really paid off, and now he is officially hosting bicycle comedy shows. She walks over, telling him he does not need to try so hard to make her laugh. Completely unbothered by the dramatic crash, Mia keeps her eyes glued to Jay. She asks him if her seat is set too high. Jay looks serious, explaining that if the seat is too low, pedaling ruins your joints.